Welcome back to the SMITE Pro League here in Season 9. And thanks for sticking around through set number 1. That was unbelievable as the Olympus Bolts beat the Oni Warriors during the regular season yet again in our first set in a 40-something minute. Game number 2 turns things all sideways. Now, the only machines that can possibly handle that temperature, that level of SMITE gameplay is, of course, an Alienware PC. Now, you at home, if your games are going that long, you're getting that competitive with things at home, you can get your hands on some Alienware gear as well if you head on over to smitegame.com/Alienware and use code AWSMITE09 for discounts on select Alienware gear as well. And so set number 2 pushed our Alienware gear to the absolute limit. And moving in to our next set of the day, we could be getting there as well. And so the next one, we've got a really good one. We've got the Jade Dragons going up against the Solar Scarabs, 2 teams that have been battling it out. Now, the Jade Dragons, as of late, have been performing a little bit better. But the Solar Scarabs, potentially a team that can start to build some momentum here towards the end of phase number 3. And so you look towards the Jade Dragons. Can you keep building on what you built on in phase 2? If you're the Solar Scarabs, can we finally make some good happen with the new roster that we've gotten here for ourselves? And really, I think, Miff, if you look towards the matchup that we've got between these two squads, the very rabid fan bases on both sides. I think the Jade Dragons, this is a team where the expectations starting to build up now as you're getting towards the end of phase 3.
I'm not even sure if it's starting, right? We've had expectations for this squad ever since they found that massive win streak with the addition of Scream. The Jade Dragons have maybe got expectations on figuring out how to play some of the later game matches, right? I mean, even Zatman brings it up during that roundtable. The Jade Dragons will tell you every single time, look, we're not an early game squad. We just happen to win out in the early game, but when you look at the history, when you look at the data, games that tend to go the distance, that win rate starts to skew a little bit more towards 50% or at times a little bit lower. So I'd like to see whether or not they've got the opportunity or the ability, rather, to actually line up. Because now with the Solar Scarabs...
Yeah.
Okay, now with the Solar Scarabs, the point is... Okay, fine.
Well,
all right,
go ahead. What's the...
You know what? No, go ahead.
I want Trelly to let me know what the point is with the Solar Scarabs, though.
Yeah, so, as we were saying...
I want to see how closely Miff matches up with... Or Trelly matches up with what Miff was possibly going to say.
as we were saying, as the Solar Scarabs... Yeah. They love getting active in the early...
Yeah, they sure do.
And the
Jade Dragons do as well.
Exactly, as I was saying.
Right. But really, I mean, if you look towards the end of phase 3 and all of the games that these two teams still have to play, Trelly, we're looking at full round robin now for both of these two teams. And as we mentioned with the Jade Dragons, the expectations I think at the beginning of the year were already there. Really hit a boiling over point in a good way at the end of phase 2 when they won the phase 2 SMITE Summer Masters event. Now we start to get towards Worlds. And that's where the fans are like, all right, look, these guys can only dominate the regular season so much. Like, it is time. I want to see them on the world stage. I want to see what they can get done. And the Jade Dragons have really formed this in-your-face type of identity. But also, Trilly, the type of team that can lay off the brakes a little bit, play you later on into the games as well. And so I think I want to start with the support matchup here. PBM up against Hurriwind, PolarBearMike, and how important he is to this Jade Dragons team.
I mean, yeah, such a dynamic player. Like, he brings so much to that lane, and that's what I'm like. It's difficult because you never know what kind of PBM you're going to get. When the meta is how it is, I like to see him on these assassins. I like to see him on these different style of aggressive picks. But as of recently, it's been the Cabrakans, the Ymirs. Every once in a while, just in that bolt set, we've been seeing a lot of the Noxes. So I think PBM, as a player, loves being like the first one into the fights, loves being at the front of these fights trying to set up for his team. And he's got such a good group of guys behind him in the sense of, Pegon, PandaCat, Vino, Scream, they can all hard carry a game. So PBM is he's such a dynamic player. Yeah,
and on the flip side, you've got the Khepri picks that have looked really good for Mike as well. And I think Mike ends up being one of those flex pieces that in picks and bans the Jade Dragons can lean on to form any type of composition. If they want to fight later on in the game, they want good late game team fights, objective shred, look, Mike can fill that role as well. You want early game pressure in a duo lane, stick Mike on Ymir, PandaCat on the Cupid. and Mike can absolutely fill that role. And so with a team that has what feels like a couple unique identities, it's important that every single player on your team can play through those unique identities. The Horus, the Ardio, the Khepri, the Cerberus. Mike has looked really good on a lot of these picks. And I like to think that he's watching his replays right now on the stream, and that's what he's like smiling and clapping about, is watching some of his plays back.
Of course.
But really a spiritual leader for this team and an emotional leader for the Jade Dragons, and things have been going well. And for a while they weren't. Think end of season 8, now into season 9. It was tough going for the Jade Dragons. Now that things are good, Mike in a really good spot with the rest of the Dragons team. Now the Solar Scarabs, you know, they just changed their roster again. Probably the most roster changes in one calendar year that I've ever seen on a SMITE team. This time Hurriwind now going to support, Jarcorrr switching to ADC. And so the task that's laid out in front of Hurriwind here, Trelly, it's a big one, right? I mean, you're going up against PolarBearMike, but you're also trying to help this team find an identity.
Yeah, and I think we've sat down and we've talked to Hurriwind, I believe, after their game up against the Valks. And he said, you know, his goal, he's got high expectations, but more specifically it's, you know, trying to build synergy with these guys as well as just trying to get the Solar Scarabs out of the rut they've been in. I believe the words he used were not last, which is just a nice way of saying, like, you know, we're just trying to get some wins here and figure out how we can build up our synergy. They have, what, like 3 weeks of regular SPL play to do so, and then it's qualifiers time, right? So if the situation is trying to outbeat the Bolts for bottom 3, that's going to be a tough ask, but at the very least they're just trying to build up that synergy, you know, get to where they want to be for like Worlds qualifier standpoint, then I imagine this is a great time to do so, you know, like try and find some early aggression. Jarcorrr has been looking real sick in that dual lane as well.
Yep.
So I imagine that's got to be on the forefront of their minds, you know, trying to build up that synergy, that dual lane synergy in particular.
Yep. Yeah, I would think so. I mean, it's a team where, I mean, technically within the realm of possibility to close the gap, leapfrog the Bolts, and not go directly into the group stages in January. But I think you've got a good mindset about it. In reality, this team has got to be now, okay, can Hurriwind solve some of the shot calling issues? Can Hurriwind be a strong and powerful voice for this team? Because you know, if you look at all the pieces that are put together for the Solar Scarabs, Trelly, I mean, between Hurriwind, Sam, Scary D, Jarcorrr, you've got Worlds winners, and then you've got oBoronic, who is I guess at this point no longer an up-and-comer, but has taken to his role quite nicely. And so you've got all these pieces, and I think you're right there. Finding the identity, how all of those pieces come together, has been the issue in the past. Now they've struggled with keeping the roster a consistent 5 in the past. I think I give shouts to Slaney, because, you know, Slaney as a head coach, it is hard to get everyone on the same page anyway, even with the same 5 playing year in and year out. Slaney has now had to have roster changes and then different personalities coming and going from this team, and still trying to find ways to make this squad work. And so Slaney deserves the utmost respect. He has my respect for sure. He also sat down with us for a pregame interview before going up against the Dragons.
Obviously versus Valks, I think we had a relatively decent set. Obviously there were lots of mistakes versus like technically like a lower seeded team, even if the Valks were doing pretty well recently. I think we played pretty well. We saw our mistakes in game and we fixed them, corrected them and adjusted, had good drafts. Obviously versus Titans, not as clean. We kind of just got stomped. I think it was a lot of instabilities. We kind of got baited into fighting all the time. We took fights that just weren't opportune for us and just kind of ran it down a bit. Thoughts on the Dragons? Obviously they're a really insane team. I think even games they lose, it's kind of in their hands. Realistically, I'm always going to feel confident playing in games. I think when we show up and we're hot, we're all mechanically one of the best players. It's just about showing up hot and making sure we get as good practice. Bye weeks tend to kind of be detrimental to teams. Maybe I've just like had teams that don't do too great with breaks in general. I think as long as we are scrimming as much as we possibly can, VOD reviewing, making sure we're being critical of each other, making sure we're playing ranked, and just keeping mechanical practice, then I think we'll be good. So maybe like it's kind of an awkward time for the bye bracket, but it also could give us more time to improve. We'll just have to wait and see.
So Slaney, the Scarabs, and their fans hoping that this bye week gave a little bit of time for the Scarabs to take a breather, but also realize that the days of, well, you've got all year to figure things out, no longer there. To your point, Trelly, we've got, after today, counting today even, 3 more weeks of SPL regular season play, then playoffs, and then half of our teams will qualify, half our teams will wait until the play-in stages. So can the Scarabs find their identity? Can the Jade Dragons continue momentum, keep pace with the top of the league? Those questions will be answered by the end of this one. A best of 3 between the Dragons and the Scarabs, kicking off now in picks and bans. And so Hurriwind has come into the league as a support player. Has been in the league in the past, of course, played mid, but since rejoining the league as a support player, played a lot of Terra. Ymir's been there, Cabrakan, Yamoja. And so added a bit of variety into the God pool there. Played some Atlas at the SEC level, but also don't necessarily expect the Solar Scarabs to be insta-locking any. There's no big Hurriwind pick that I imagine ends up getting super quickly locked here for the Solar Scarabs. Yamoja and Pele both taken off the board. And no double ADC comp, at least that revolves around an AMC or a Kernanos, as the Jade Dragons have taken away, Trelly, a couple of those important pieces.
Yeah, so now that gives the Jade Dragons the option to first pick a whole myriad of things, but it looks like the Morrigan is actually what they value the most here. You know, I had my eyes on the possible Cabrakan that PBM would go to, or just getting Scream on something active, but it looks like the Morrigan is going to be the call here, and that opens up a whole avenue of possibilities because, you know, the Morrigan's great into certain compositions, but also it makes the Solar Scarabs have to be careful about who they're going to grab, right? Because they don't want to give this great transformation over to the team fight of the Jade Dragons. The Scarabs, of course, you know, when I think of Hurriwind so far in the SPL, he's been liking the Fafnir a lot. Not something that everyone else is going to. It's a pick that he likes. I know we had the benefit of having him on the desk with us for the week before he actually joined in the SPL to talk about why he likes the Fafnir so much. Usually, it's a decent counter pick into the Ymir, a very immobile character. You can pop Frenzy, drop a Bracer, and then just focus out that character. In this situation where the Ymir is Dan, that's not going to be the case, but Cthulhu, certainly going to be something that the Scarabs don't want to give over to fineokay. They don't want to give it over to Pegon, but unfortunately they have to anyways. But grab that Cthulhu and the Ishtar. It's going to be a pretty solid top 2.
Yeah, Solar Scarabs hoping to avoid the double Cthulhu composition from the Jade Dragons with the Morrigan. Do have some shred though. The Ishtar, absolutely an option. Now I wonder, you know, with the Jade Dragons banning out Kern and AMC, I wonder if that's just a general dislike of like double ADC type of compositions, or now we saw Ishtar in the mid, so you know I don't know if you necessarily. I mean, the Stinger just makes double ADC so much easier to shred away some of the easy physical protections that you can build up, and so maybe just less worried about a double ADC comp that doesn't involve one of those 2 picks. Camazotz certainly interesting here. Played a few times so far in this phase, 80% win rate, and then a Cupid as well. So a really strong top 3 here, Trelly, for the Jade Dragons.
And that also gives a great transformation over to the Morrigan.
Yep.
I'm not confident that it's going to be in the jungle. I think fineokay could certainly take this, but we'll leave it up in the air because Camazotz great in the jungle as well as in the solo lane, but doing so does leave open that Cabrakan pick we were talking about earlier. So PBM probably going to have to dive real deep into the God pool here when looking at support picks. I mean, Ymir's already gone. The Cabrakan's taken. I have to imagine Terra could be on the ban column as well, just because that's a very strong pick at the moment and deals a lot with what Cabrakan and Ishtar and Cthulhu want to do. But first and foremost, the Atlas going to be taken away. Usually, you'd think it's a support ban, but hey, we've seen Scream pilot it before.
A Scream ban
could be
sure.
Definitely a Scream ban as well.
Do you think the Jade Dragons gutsy enough to pick Atlas for Scream and then Pegon on some jungler on the world stage?
Yes.
You think they are?
I do think they are. And the reason is, I don't think they were, when they were picking it, it was because they're like, we're so good. I think they were like, this is going to throw people off, and it's going to work, and it did. So, again, that was up against, like, they've done it multiple times now, but against, like, the Camelot Kings, like, they were confident
I'm keeping it in the back of my mind.
Yeah, so I imagine most teams are when they're up against the Dragons. Like, should we worry about the Atlas mid, you know, that sort of thing? So
maybe you need to worry about it.
Probably smart.
Wow. So, again, maybe Mike, but also Scream, getting an Atlas ban, Yamoja, and Sylvanus all get taken away, and then Ymir as well. Take a shot and think that this Cabrakan is over for Hurriwind in support. So Mike's going to be digging a bit deeper here for his support pick. Still some good options there as well. Any of the mage supports that he might have his eye on, definitely an option there, but then maybe you're worried about tankiness early on in the draft here. The Source Scarabs have the ability to really burst some of that down already with the way that their draft has gone. And so if the Scarabs do end up having already solo lane, ADC, and support locked in, then we're looking for jungle and mid with the last couple of picks. And Sanford Soccer joined this squad, remember earlier on this year when some jungle changes were happening. And Sam, so no, it'll be an Ishtar mid and a Heimdallr over in the duo lane. Sam has played a myriad of picks.
Oh, yeah.
Thanatos, Daji, Hun, Batz, Thor, Pele, Lancelot. So none of the same picks in the last 6 for Sanford Soccer. Very hard guy to really lock down.
Yeah, definitely. I'm surprised that let so many different Guardians through. You know, Sylvanus, I didn't imagine that would be something that Mike goes to. Sure, it's a fun pick and it's going to bring a lot of, you know, the pulls, but definitely didn't think that would be something the Jade Dragons would be worried about taking away either way. Double bans into the jungle, as you said. So would Sam really go to something like the Thanatos? The last time he played it, it didn't go well, and I do remember him tweeting out afterwards, like, maybe the Thanatos gets hung up, so I don't imagine that's something he goes to.
He's just living rent-free in opposing teams' heads. He's tweeting out purposeful misinformation to lull opponents into a sense of security.
Well, if that's the case, then I imagine Mike's not going to go towards the Khepri because, you know, it could come through, and it's not going to be the case. The Athena comes through, which also gives a pretty great transformation there to the Morrigan, being able to use that to traverse the map. And it looks like the Cliodhna locked in, so for my money, the Cliodhna and the Camazotz could be switching places, but fineokay would prefer the Cliodhna, I would think. I don't know. It could be a switch up of many degrees.
Well, we have no data for this phase on either of those two picks, on Cliodhna at least.
And then we've seen Cliodhna even play in the mid lane, so for my money, I'm saying fineokay on the Cliodhna, and no. You know what? No. Now I'm backtracking. I think it's probably... No, okay, 100% I'm locking in. Done. fineokay on the Cliodhna in solo. Lock it in.
Okay, lock it in.
And Screammmmm on the Camazotz, but it's got the flex potential.
What has you arrived to that conclusion? Do you think Cliodhna is just... Do you think that fineokay just prefers it, or do you think there's
I've seen him play the Cliodhna.
There's actual lane advantages to Cliodhna solo?
I think that I've seen him play it, and he's probably more confident on the Cliodhna because the thing about Camazotz is you got to be landing that Vampire Batz. That second ability is, like, you have to be landing it.
Right.
And Cliodhna you can get away with missing, right? Cliodhna you can just ult waves, you get free farm, you still get the chunk late game. She took some nerfs.
You're saying Screammmmm is worse because he misses more abilities, therefore...
No, I'm saying...
You're saying fineokay is worse.
I didn't say worse. I just think that Cliodhna is more forgiving, especially in solo lane, whereas Kama, if you're going Kama jungle, you got to be hitting. I think Screammmmm, he'll be hitting.
I'm just jokingly putting words in your mouth, Trilly. No, nothing of the sort was said. Now, Athena and Cliodhna both picked for the first time this phase. We've seen it at the SCC level a little bit. Both have found success at the SCC level. Athena, unseen in phase 3 of the SPL so far. Of course, there's global pressure. I mean, the sudden initiation to any corner of the map has to be talked about for PolarBearMike. But in lane, I mean, it's such a simple kit, but Charlie can be very disruptive for opposing duo lanes.
Yeah, I think that this pick is all about how you play it and how you traverse the map, right? I think, you know, dash in and taunt is always going to be a decent engage. There's better engages, of course, but it's more so, hey, we're in a 2v2 situation. Oh, wait, now Athena's here. Hey, we're in a 2v3 situation. Oh, wait, now 2 Athenas are here because Pegon ulted in as well, that sort of thing. So it all depends on how Mike uses it. Athena's been in the meta before, and I think Mike has played it quite well, so I'm not too worried about how he's going to pilot the pick. The only issue is it does get pretty shut down by like a Heimdallr into Cabrakan combo. You dash in and you're just getting sent through the realms. That's always not going to be fun. So holding on to the beads, if you are going to get them, or more specifically watching your positioning, that's going to be the name of the game here for the Dragons duo lane.
Well, Charlie, quick thoughts. Phase of the game, early game. Both teams have been known to play early. Do you think both teams have compositions that can play early, that can get aggressive in the first few minutes?
They definitely do. When I see a double assassin composition, that screams to me more the Jade Dragons want to get active in the early. I think double Hunter, double Guardian, the Scarabs are fine sitting back, but once that lead starts crawling a little bit too much, you really got to draw that line in the sand. That's always been the issue here for the Scarabs.
I mean, my goodness, when Ishtar and Heimdallr get to late game, they absolutely swing. I mean, as any ADC does, and we saw a bit of it later on in the 42, 43 or so minute game that we had in just our previous set. Those double ADC compositions, not only good later on, but given the right circumstances, can shred some objectives down early. And so for Sanford Soccer, we wondered what the pick would end up being. It's the Daji. Can Sam make some waves, get this team composition pushed into late. Plenty of questions to be answered. Jade Dragons, Solar Scarabs, game number 1, and it's with J-Mac and Mifflin on the call.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dulcin and Trelly, back in our second half of the phase in our first matchup for the Dragons and the Solar Scarabs, second set of today. And a double assassin out of the Dragons versus double hunter composition that the Scarabs have drafted. And I think Dave and Trelly started making some strong points as to maybe the early game that both of these two team compositions like to play. Do you kind of put a favoritism towards one or the other in this early spot, Mifflin?
You'll be hard pressed to find me voting against a Thor, especially in like a 9-10 Thor, a Thor that could just absolutely dominate the pace of the match. The second Sanford Soccer ticks over to level 5, he's got some great targets on map as well. So I think the Solar Scarabs have got opportunities to leverage throughout the early, especially in the mid 3v3. Ishtar, Thor, and Cabrakan, very, very hard to deal with, whereas Scream going to need a little bit more itemization. Pegon, of course, going to need a little bit more as well.
What?
Mike's been doing this, man.
No, not that. It's Sam is at the green buff. That's where my question mark is. And now Hurriwind, okay, this makes sense for Hurriwind to maybe be back there being a bit disruptive, but seeing Sam at the green is probably the biggest head scratcher for me, Miff.
Well, it's a direct answer to that play from PBM. You don't generally have anybody at the green buff that early, right, that can actually stop PBM. So having Sam cleared out on his own, then rotate towards speed still allows him to get involved in that 2v2 over in the soul lane, get active around the Totem of Coup. I think that's a smart answer. The Solar Scarabs have been taking a lot of note of what the Jade Dragons have been doing.
A lot of damage through and a Sunder from PBM. That's some old school style of play from PolarBearMike. I haven't seen Sunder picked up this early, and not just that, being used early on. This 2v2 in dual lane starting off real strong for the Scarabs. PandaCat already pushed to half HP multiple times, has to use those few potions to sustain up. And that play from Hurriwind, holding PandaCat in the lane, denying him any kind of real farm this early on, seems to have been paying off.
Yeah, plus purple buff goes the way of the Solar Scarabs too. I mean, that was honestly a masterful answer to the start that the Jade Dragons attempted there. You defend your green buff, you get the enemy purple, you keep PandaCat behind. PolarBearMike zones himself, but doesn't get anything either. That's massive for the Solar Scarabs, a phenomenal early game win. But it's not the first rotation of buffs that you're concerned about, it's what you do with those timers. Can the Solar Scarabs make way to the next rotation of purples? Are they able to leverage this lead that they've already established for themselves? We'll see. I think they can, though. I mean, this is an aggressive duo lane. You've got an aggressive jungler and aggressive mid laner. The only thing the Solar Scarabs can't do is play around their solo. Scary D on Cthulhu, anybody on Cthulhu, really, just does not generate pressure.
No, so most likely we'll be keeping a lot of vision towards this left side, towards this mid lane. We even saw some action happening in the mid between Pegon and Scream, able to get some good damage. Now, Charlie was thinking that this cleanup maybe going over towards the solo lane for fineokay, as he says, a bit more forgiving on missed skill shots and maybe some missed timings over there.
What a wild call by Trelly, by the way. Wild.
I mean, when's the last time that we actually saw clean a solo in competitive? It feels like all the way back, maybe like phase 1 at best.
It's been a while.
Where just recently we saw Haddox take Camazotz. So I think it was actually against the Solar Scarabs and against, I think it was when Slaney was subbing in on the team there, played the Camazotz solo, did pretty well. So we will see fineokay on the bat. And starting out with a Tainted Steel, maybe the more interesting of the starter items kind of picked up here for the Dragons.
Yeah, just deal with some of that sustain that Scary D will get a little bit later on, or if there's a fight that happens over there, being able to strip away some of that healing that Cthulhu has in the Descent into Madness should find some value. You've got some great transformations, or upgrades rather, for the Tainted Steel as we start to move further and further on into the game. I think fineokay is probably just reckoning that it doesn't super matter about the damage output that he goes towards. Like, you could Bluestone Transcendence Camazotz solo, and you'll get away with it just fine, and it should allow you to get aggressive in the lane, but considering Cthulhu is generally slanted to just playing a bit safer, likely just tossing the Mire out from in the tower line, realizes doesn't really need that extra boost of damage early. There's just not a whole lot of fight back potential. I imagine Sanford Soccer will probably hover solo on the next rotation of blue buff, because the standard answer to Cthulhu in lane is camp it, steal his blues, make sure he's not able to transition to that mid to late game team fight as easily. With Thor, that global presence, you've always got to be concerned. You walk up to Scary D's blue buff, and you might have an Anvil of Dawn dropped on your head.
It's got to be a good feeling for Yark when you can eat a full duration taunt and not be concerned whatsoever, especially when you're at enemy tower line and that taunt ends up coming through. Jarcorrr holding on to the beads after the CC through from the support. Still no level 5 yet from Sam. Should be close. Maybe this wave will be enough to help tick him over to there. And it will be just enough indeed. So Anvil of Dawn now online for Sam. So where will that first ultimate slam through? You're talking maybe towards solo lane. Try and help out his solo laner, Scary D. Try and make sure that his blue buff can be secured as it is spawning up now. I actually see Sam hovering over maybe towards the left side of the map, but I mean, not much to be gained when the enemy team on the duo is sitting under tier 1 tower for this long.
Yeah, good luck ganking duo lane with the pressure already established by the Scarabs duo lane. And you gotta be so certain of your ability to actually kill Pegon off CC. If Anvil of Adon connects and oBoronic doesn't have enough DPS to actually kill Pegon, imagine we see the Morrigan just transform into a Camazotz and then fly to his own tower. So Sam gonna keep his eyes towards another purple buff invade. Mike's gotta play safe here.
Ooh, through the realms. Thrown by Yark to
No
send
commit.
PBM away. Purple buff was stolen successfully, so that's what the rotation from Sam will net for his team. It's stripping away one buff on one side, and then helping to secure the other buff on their team. Red buff will still go over to the Jade Dragons, so they at least get one of their 2 main priority buffs there, but still looking at this experience gap actually. Scream was sitting the same level 5 to 5 in that mid rotation, but Sam's now falling behind about a full level to Scream.
Yeah, Scream's been farming very well on map, and Cliodhna just establishes a pretty wild pace in the jungle. Her ability to clear these camps is pretty strong. One of the fastest clears in the game, so Thor likely will lag behind in that regard. I am surprised that the Solar Scarabs don't dedicate time to actually trying to shut down PBM. It doesn't have a meditation in that first slot, hadn't back to base just yet, so didn't have the Mail Renewal either. If Hurriwind locks him in with the walls, you're 3 stacked on top of him, and PandaCat didn't really have the ability to get involved in that fight. Maybe concerned about PBM's ability to just ult out of that situation, but even in just taking away that resource, I think certainly going to find some value. Maybe Hurriwind's concerned about his cooldown. He's got his eyes elsewhere on the map. Maybe wants to lock down Pegon instead. But I don't know. Solar Scarabs, they're playing trepidatious. That purple buff invade was confirmed once Jarcorrr used the ultimate. Feels like they could have kept the aggression up, realizing that Scream was on the right-hand side.
PBM pushing up towards the top side of the jungle. Not sure if he's going for obelisk offerings or maybe trying to go for a gank towards the duo lane. It seems he is slanting towards the obelisk. Now going back to the Sunder, it's something that we saw kind of just thrown out there earlier on. You know, he was taking a little bit of damage throughout the Sunder, maybe deter them. And maybe should be fine. He'll get the ult out and he'll make his way over towards solo side, which actually forced an ultimate away for Sam for soccer. But going on towards the Sunder, now more often than not, we have been seeing kind of that splashing Sunder that comes through, hit the AoE with it. Do you think there's any value going up against a god like Cthulhu with so much HP to maybe go towards that Siphon?
Man, I am a massive fan of siphoning Sunder, personally. I feel like that has got a ton of value, and Cthulhu's certainly a target that I think you would find that value in. For those not in the know, why would you be? Nobody else is building it. So hold that thought as Hurriwind. He's caught out.
Taunted in, Sunder is good, slowed down, gets the wall to try and fight back, but there's not much fight back for Hurriwind against 3. Jade Dragons pick up first blood, and Pegon transforms into the Thor, and we'll just dunk back onto the red buff.
Yeah, man, Hurriwind steps up aggressively around that purple, needs to realize that his team isn't nearby, isn't around to follow up, so threatens the purple buff on his own, but not much of a threat when you are on your own. Hurriwind falls for first blood, and the Jade Dragons start to get their ball rolling ever so slightly. The point I was trying to make is, siphoning Sunder is real good, all right? But you have to stay in range of your target. It's essentially a connector. Once you hit someone with siphoning Sunder, it draws a line to that target, create a little bit more distance, that line will be broken, but as long as you are within that range, you're going to be constantly applying that damage, getting rid of some of that defense as well. And with Scary D on Cthulhu, it's not going to be difficult to keep within range of the Cthulhu. He would love to keep you close by, and for the most part, once you descend to Madness, it's all about that W key. So I'll be keeping my eyes on Mike. I would love to see it.
Well, unfortunately, it's not going to happen for him.
Nobody's building it, man.
Right as you finish the sentence, ends up going back and picking up the second one
Uh-oh,
instead.
hurry.
Hurriwind taunted again, but gets the stun onto PBM as he is taunted back. Maybe one of the strengths that the Cabrakan has up against that Athena. Very telegraphed in both regards. You know, Athena's going for the taunt. Go ahead and pop your stun. Be ready for when he pulls you back in. Scream level 9 on this Cliodhna has been doing a good job power farming up. We haven't really seen him get super active as of yet. The fight over on the left side didn't even involve Scream. Seems he's more interested in getting his farm game up in this early stage.
Yeah, he's just going to be a massive DPS drop in the late game, right? He's just really setting up for a nuke style of play. And Cliodhna's damage, nothing to be scoffed at. I know that she's fallen off a bit insofar as the tier list, especially at the highest level of competitive play, but still has very good matchup and some of these individual picks. Throw a wall on a Scary D, he's probably going to eat the entirety of a Cliodhna ultimate. Lock down entire jungle corridors. Makes it difficult to find those blinks aggressively. No blink pickup just yet for the Solar Scarabs, but gotta think Hurriwind likely will look towards it as he starts to approach level 12, wants those initiations to come a bit more easily. I think the Cliodhna's, for the most part, for the next 4 or 5 minutes, probably just around a DPS objectives. If the Jade Dragons find themselves in a position where they can even look at a Pyromancer, might just be enough. If Scream's nearby, he'll blow it up on his own.
fineokay going even, at least for now, in the Soul Lane matchup. It's Transcendence versus a Pythags for first Ivan. We've been seeing this Pythags kind of pop up a lot as of recent for the Soul Lane, especially for these Guardians, Cthulhu, Ardio. We've been seeing this item become very popular. You think it's just the extra sustain that it gives to you? Do you think it's that aura that it provides to your team that's making it such a valuable item?
Little column A, little column B, right? It's the entire item that makes it good. But the sustain in lane against the massive sustain that fineokay has on Camazotz with the Vampiric Bats. Trelly talks about how you need to land that ability. You can land it on a minion, you're still going to get your heal, right? So having something that can match a little bit of that should go a long way in keeping Scary D just afloat in the laning phase. It's not easy as a Cthulhu to deal with some of these hyper-aggressive picks like Camazotz, and Pythags Piece might be able to make that a bit of an easier transition for him.
3-man rotation towards left. All bit spread out. Sam looking one way, not realizing the other team of the Dragons are staring him down. So instead it'll just be Oracle Harpies picked up for the Solar Scarabs, gives them vision around Gold Fury. It makes it maybe a little easier for Sam to make a rotation towards one of these lanes. Dash taunt by Mike doesn't get very much, except maybe puts him out of position instead. Damage isn't quite there. That Mail of Renewal heal gives Mike a lot of HP back. And not much more that Yark and Hurriwind can get against the support.
It is nearly impossible to kill a support that's got Mail of Renewal at this portion of the game, man. The amount of healing that you get, absolutely ridiculous. PandaCat allowed to step forward there, realizing Hurriwind doesn't have access to that ultimate, so there's real no threat.
oBoronic throws the ult, but
Just dash
damage
down?
from the double assassin, just a little too much. Not sure if the dash was off cooldown. Wait, poured in by Sam. Needs one more hit,
Can't
but the
see him.
invis once again, he can't see him down. And Pegon puts down the jungler of the Solar Scarabs. 2 kills for the Jade Dragons.
Man, that is so tough. Sanford Soccer even itemizes for exactly situations like that. Crusher in the first slot, just praying that the passive would finish off that kill. Scream, very clean. Utilizes not only the, I suppose, air quotes, stealth from that flickering visions, but also the enhanced movement speed you get to avoid that last auto. And the Jade Dragons, they may have run away with the early game now. That lead is starting to really quickly accumulate. I gotta assume Boronic's dash was down. There's no reason for him to dig in his heels there. Sanford Soccer was on the rotation in, but was still so far away. Had Boronic just got back to that tower line, feels like the Jade Dragons' entire aggressive play would have fizzled.
Not really sure what was going on there, but we know what's going on right here. Double assassin
fast.
damage means the Pyromancer stands no chance.
Whew.
Very close steal. Potential by Scary D, but doesn't find it. Scream goes in the wall, dashes out, and just on the other side of the wall, Hurriwind doesn't catch out the Cliodhna, and instead might be a potential turnaround pick for the Dragons. But with that horrific going out, and really only fineokay affected by it, the Jade Dragons will stop their pursuit with a successful grab of the Pyromancer.
Man, the Scarabs are losing all momentum now. Boronic narrowly escapes with his beads there. Would have lost it if Confound connects. Sanford Soccer attempted to confirm his own blue buff. Unsuccessful. fineokay able to strip that one away again. And the Jade Dragons do what the Jade Dragons do. It's now all about stifling the entirety of the map. Mid-tower falls because PBM is nearly unkillable, standing behind the tier 1 just about, keeping Boronic away from that trebuchet. I think the Jade Dragons now in a position where they could just group up and try and force a fight around this Gold Fury. The only thing they really need to concern themselves with is the ultimate from Sanford Soccer. That's the comeback mechanic for the Solar Scarabs right now. A massive Anvil of Dawn could change some of these fights. Maybe the Jade Dragons look for that pick or just to poke them out. Then they can start looking at that objective.
Ult from the mid laner, but Boronic needs more than just the ult. Dashes right into Sam, and now he's on the wrong side of the fight. Pegon finds the pick. Hurriwind gets a double stun. Up in the sky is Sam. Dunks right down on top of just PBM. Not the ideal target that you want when he's so tanky. Maybe Scary D can help fizzle out this fight and push the Jade Dragons back away. PBM, even after taking a combo from Sam, is sitting full HP after the end of it.
Man, what is going on with the Solar Scarabs? They want every fight that comes their way, but you got to realize the Jade Dragons are choosing these fights for a reason. Why is oBoronic digging his heels and throwing his ultimate out every single time someone walks him down? Just nowhere to run to there either. Your tier 1's dead, man. Back up a little bit. Don't let the Jade Dragons continue this pace because the gold lead, it doubles every time I look up, man.
Yep. And 4,400 gold. Experience has also gotten out of control, 5,500. You look across the board, and it's 1.5 to 2 levels in the top 3 roles between them. And fineokay level 15 on the Camazotz. Very close to hitting that level 16 mark as well over Scary D. 3 levels now in the jungle, so that 1.5 to 2 is closer to maybe 2.5, at least for Scream in that regard. For the Solar Scarabs, I mean, at this point, it's got to be to the farm game. They've got to stop going for every one of these fights, but is the objective then where they maybe try and pick one of these fights?
I think you got to wait now for the Jade Dragons to pull out an actual contestable objective. If it's the Pyromancer, try and steal. If you're a Scarab, like throw a hammer out at it or have oBoronic throw out the Rolling Thunder or something like that, but don't dedicate your fight to a Pyro. It'll burn so quickly with Scream sitting at level 15 already. Instead, wait for an Anvil of Dawn. Wait for a group up. Play as 5. Play around your team fight. That's what the Solar Scarabs draft is all about, is that 5-on-5 engagement once Cthulhu can get involved. You got to stop this, though.
Gold Fury, ooh, taunt on a Hurriwind stops the ultimate from going through. Hurriwind gets the ult, but loses life. Massive Anvil of Dawn from Sam for Soccer, but he just doesn't get the follow-up that he needs, and instead it's Pegon transforming into the Camazotz, chasing down Jarcorrr, who will manage to get back to the tower. Maybe Scary D
alone
can find something. Scream is low. Scream has got to go down, and he will, but Scary D trades his life with it. It's a 2-for-1. And
Sam.
maybe even Sam, because there are 4 Jade Dragons
He's
by.
done.
Teleport is there, but so is fineokay, ready to punish him. Pegon throws out the Dark Omen, and fineokay finished the job. 3-for-1 and a Gold Fury to the Dragons.
Decent communication from the Solar Scarabs on that fight. Phenomenal ultimate from Sam for Soccer. What's your follow-up? Hurriwind's already dead. oBoronic is zoned out, and Scary D didn't get there until 15 seconds later and goes in alone. Sure, Scary D finds the pick on the Scream. That should have been the end of it. Should have just said, all right, I traded my life 1-for-1. Awesome, I got there, jungler. Sam, go spend some time farming. Maybe you can catch up a little bit. But Sam says, maybe I find a pick too? You know, if you could do it, I can as well. Not the case, brother. Your ultimate's down. Easy chase for the Jade Dragons. And even had Sam for Soccer found any sort of pick there, there's no objectives on the map for the Solar Scarabs to leverage that pick towards. Best case scenario, Sam for Soccer, like, I don't know, maybe he murders Pegon. Where are you going? Not the Pyromancer, hasn't respawned yet. Not the Fury. The Jade Dragons just took that. Not the Fire Giant. Your comp's not built for that with the picks that had already happened. Just strange engagement decisions from the Solar Scarabs.
Pegon and co are just running down Scary D, and that Sense into Madness is not available, so it's another pick for the Dragons, who rotated everybody except for Scream to the right side. By the way, Pegon soaked up the tier 1 tower himself just to continue that chase, and a tier 2 tower right behind. Answer by the Scarabs, though, is to grab a tier 1 and tier 2 of their own on left, but do they have the DPS to do it? Dragons questioned the potential of the Phoenix, but instead back away because Fire Giant is on the mind.
Sam for Soccer's got ult so early. It just got pulled. No way. They all know. The Jade Dragons can see you. They heard you go up, and they know you're there now, and he goes in alone?
Goes in. Can't even hammer out because the CC is too much. Locks him in place. Didn't even pop his beads or his Aegis.
My guy, you are level 13. What was the strat? What's the plan there? I'm going to kill them all. My dude thinks he's John Wick.
There's 4 levels down to Scream jumping in that fight. 4 levels down to PandaCat and Pegon jumping in that fight. Actually, it was 5 levels down to PandaCat. And as you said, just too early on the trigger. Goes up when fire had just been pulled.
Look at the Solar Scarabs draft, J-Mac. When I look at it, I see team fight. I see a double hunter composition that has got a steadfast front line with Scary D and Hurriwind and a standard assassin initiation with Anvil of Dawn. You're waiting for a 5-on-5. That's what you want. But every single time a 1v1 has popped up, or a 2v2, or even 3v2s or 3v3s, the Solar Scarabs say, oh, word, you want the fight? Yeah, we'll take it. No! Back up! Retreat! Use your relics defensively! Run away! Get out of there! The Jade Dragons are choosing these engagements because they know they're going to win them, because they've got the numbers advantage, because they're up a ludicrous amount of gold just 19 minutes in, because they've got 5 levels on individual gods at points. There's a reason these fights are being chosen by the Jade Dragons, and the Solar Scarabs, it just seems like they're ignoring the state of the game right now.
Well, no towers left standing for the Solar Scarabs. It's all Phoenixes left to defend up against the Jade Dragons. And a full 5 comp for the Dragons pushed over to the left side. PBM, the only traditional tank to soak up this Phoenix damage. Not doing a whole lot on the Dragons as far as damage to the Phoenix.
It's so early.
Mostly just PBM soaking that one up, but they've got some sustain with PandaCat. Jade Dragons waiting for that moment to go in, but they haven't found that window just yet.
What's Scary D gonna do, right? Like, generally I would say Descent into Madness is that team fight tool you need to remove if you're a Jade Dragons member before you could dedicate yourself to the Phoenix. It's a level 16 Cthulhu that's got one true dedicated defense item, right? The only Hunter Garb is good, but it's not so good that he could just walk into the fight.
Hurriwind pulled in. Sunder, first up to the charge is used. Doesn't get a whole lot just yet, and this Phoenix been slowly chipped away. Scary D blinks in, Descent to Madness, but by the time he gets up, a quarter of his health is gone. A Fields of Love to zone out the fight. Anvil of Dawn in the backline does absolutely nothing. fineokay has taken the most damage for his team, and he is just fine in the bat out of hell as Hurriwind goes down and Scary D goes back to base. The left side Phoenix crumbles to the Jade Dragons.
Do you see the Jade Dragons HP bars? They didn't move, even with the Anvil of Dawn in the back. Sam realizes, look, space hasn't been created. Scary D is not a threat. Has to hammer out immediately. You landed your dunk, but you didn't Berserker's Barrage. You didn't find the double tap, and there's no ranged follow-up from the Solar Scarabs. oBoronic can go into the snipe stance, sure, but no Odysseus bow just yet. Means there's no AoE damage. Jarcorrr wasn't allowed to get involved in that fight just about at all. The Jade Dragons, they broke the Solar Scarabs early in this one. The lead, nearly insurmountable. This is 99% odds. Left side Phoenix gone, mid Phoenix gone. What are the Solar Scarabs going to do on the map? Group significantly. Fire Giant isn't there, boys. Nothing you could do here.
This is a nearly 15,000 gold lead that the Dragons have surmounted in just 21 and a half minutes of play. And, well, I mean, I guess good news for the Scarabs. There's not much more gold that can be got on the map with Fury now taken away, Pyromancer gone, Fire Giant down.
The good news is they already got all the gold, right?
Yeah,
they can't lose harder.
Yeah, they can't take too much more. I mean, one more Phoenix, that's what, like 700 more gold? Oh no, but here's the problem is they're 15,000 gold down at 22 minutes. I mean, you look across the board, Mifflin. It's a nearly full build for PandaCat while Jarcorrr is still struggling to just now get that Odysseus bow online. Tough for the Solar Scarabs in this position. In all honesty, is there even a silver lining in this game to try and come back?
Well, considering what we had seen in the previous set, maybe a Fire Giant steal extends the game by like 5, 6, 7 minutes. You buy a little bit more time to close up some of those builds. Jade Dragons aren't going to wait, though. Why sit on your hands? We don't need a Fire Giant to siege this Phoenix. We've got too much golden experience to play with.
Well, Phoenix doesn't stand for very long. And that's all 3 birds now taken away. Solar Scarabs now have no defenses left for their Titan. Instead, they've sent Sam for Soccer to get a little bit of free farm on the left, work on a tier 2 tower, which will take them a little while to get. But with Fire Giant coming back in and your main range initiation away from the fight, Solar Scarabs don't have much to get in.
Yeah, I don't think the Solar Scarabs are in a position to defend this Fire Giant. Literally on the map or even just macro, you don't have the resources to do it. So have Sam for Soccer push out that left tier 2 tower. Have him collect a little bit of global gold for his team. He's gonna kill the tower, right? There we go. Okay, he stopped his back. Gonna grab that tower. Now it's about defending the Titan. True 5-on-5 engagement. It's what your draft was built for on the Solar Scarabs. May come a little too late though. You're at full strength, every ultimate up, every relic up as well. But with a double hunter composition like this, the Solar Scarabs need to kill the first guy that walks in. But the first guy that walks in is PBM with 3 block stacks. and a massive taunt. Or it might be fineokay, who if he even feels even slightly under threat, can just ult out.
Well, PBM was the first one in, but he's not dead. He's got backup from the team. Scary D sundered as he's up in the top and is losing a lot of health. fineokay in the bat out of hell, keeping 3 players back. Scary D just barely makes it back to the fountain, and Sam trying to play disruption with the wall. Does get some good damage onto Panda, but Jarcorrr goes down first. The Titan may just be the next one to fall because the Solar Scarabs, while they're healthy, the objective is not. 24.5 minutes, Dragons take game 1.
I've not seen a siege like that in a long time, where the Jade Dragons legitimately create space by putting their shoulders into the chest of the Scarabs and say, yo, get into the fountain, you know, get out of my way. We're gonna beat up your Titan. They didn't even need kills. There was no damage output. Generally, when you end a game, you want to get the picks first because you're worried about damage being returned to you while you kill a Titan. fineokay was 1v1ing a Titan surrounded by 5 Scarabs, and they still couldn't kill him.
It's pretty much how the state of the game went from there. I mean, when you're 15,000 gold up, you can essentially do no wrong except maybe dive into the fountain to try and get the kills at that point. Jade Dragons, a very dominant, commanding game number 1. Solar Scarabs, got to figure out what it's going to take for them to come back in game 2 because they're going to need everything to do so. We're going to take a break, and we'll get you guys set up for the next one right after this.
After game number 1, Dragons fans thrilled with what they've seen. Scarabs fans shaking their fists towards the sky, hoping for a bit of a turnaround here in game number 2. And the Jade Dragons fans, I think, actually probably Scarabs fans as well, and the other 6 teams in the league, their fans, everyone excited with the new jerseys that we've got down the stretch here in Phase 3 and will be wearing over at the SMITE World Championship happening in January. So, if you want to sport your team's gear at the SWC here in 2.5 months, now's the time. shop.hi-rezstudios.com/SPL is where you want to go. Pick up your team's jerseys. You can personalize it. And, of course, all of this brought to you by Skull. So thanks to them for supplying our jerseys this year, not only to our players, but to our fans as well. So the time is now. If you want to sport your team's jerseys at Worlds, head on to the link at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen here and pick yourself up one of our 8 awesome redesigned jerseys here in Season 9 of the SMITE Pro League. So both of these two teams probably have fans that are happy with the state of their jerseys, but very different with the state of the fans after game number 1 here, where the Jade Dragons simply run away with things. And Trelly, we wondered if the Solar Scarabs composition would be able to hang in there later on in the game. Double Guardian, double Hunter, in theory, should just blow up team fights, sustain damage while dealing a lot of it on the back end. Just never got there.
Yeah, it didn't seem like they got online to where these double hunters could actually, do what they were picked to do. It looked like the front line of the Jade Dragons was unkillable. I mean, fineokay on this Camazotz with PBM on the Athena. They were constantly getting to the back line, and it didn't seem like their health bars really moved. Pegon and PandaCat were able to pretty much free cast. I think the Morrigan is a pick that is extremely strong with the right transformations, and giving Camazotz to Pegon is also something extremely scary because it's so hard to kill the Morrigan as is when you never know what you can transform into. And Bat out of hell, just make sure that you're going to have so much safety. So pretty textbook game here from the Jade Dragons, right? It wasn't like they did anything extremely well. It was just they did everything extremely well. And the Solar Scarabs tried, but it just didn't seem like they could really get anything going.
I mean, it was kind of ridiculous at points how little damage the Jade Dragons were taking. I think Myth really sets it up wonderfully there towards the end, where the siege was effectively just the Dragons pushing back the Scarabs so they could focus on the Titan. The Dragons were unconcerned about the team fight. And you look at Mike on the front of this fight, barely takes any damage. And that's where the slipperiness of the Camazotz and the double Camazotz at times really comes out for the Jade Dragons. The 1 kill for the Solar Scarabs. Remember, that was Scary D around a Fury fight. Was able to pick off Scream. Fed out his brains in this game, 0-1-7.
Can you imagine?
Right, and I think the Jade Dragons are a team that are probably
roasting
Scream over the 1 kill. Yeah, I mean, goodness, the damage. Everyone except for Scary D in the single-digit thousands on the Solar Scarabs, and everyone but PolarBearMike in the double-digit thousands of damage for the Jade Dragons. It was just very lopsided here in game number 1. And we get those games every once in a while. I wonder if now the Solar Scarabs need to try to find a way to get back to the identity of, okay, we like playing through the early game. We don't want to let the Dragons just run over things early. Maybe that's an area to draft into here.
Yeah, I would say so. If I'm the Solar Scarabs, I'm almost never picking a late game composition. It just I don't see my team hanging in there until late. You want to come at them with everything you have in the early. Saber Soccer on the Thor does that quite well, but sitting on double ADC, double Guardian, they really weren't able to get to that point. So This is one of those situations where, and I rarely say this, but sometimes it happens, short memory, take absolutely nothing from that first game. I mean, there wasn't many good points. Again, 1 kill, and it was just because Scream went a little bit too far. Like, I would say, remove that game from your mind. Look for early aggression. That's the only play the Solar Scarabs have currently, because the Jade Dragons made very little mistakes, and if they made more, we couldn't see them, and the Solar Scarabs certainly couldn't punish them.
I mean, look, no team in the SPL is immune to games like that happening to them. It's about how you adapt, change your game plan, and bounce back. Can't let it get in your head, and that's what the Solar Scarabs are hoping to get done here in game number 2. Jade Dragons find themselves in second pick. Of course, that means Solar Scarabs over in first pick. So, do the Solar Scarabs now maybe feel like they've got some bands to adapt from game number 1, some picks to take away? Again, it's hard to say because it wasn't one big pop-off performance from the Jade Dragons. It was just how that composition worked together. So I'm not sure there's any snap-lock bans you instantly have to make after a game 1 goes the way that game 1 did here for the Solar Scarabs. Now, Pele and Set are both off the table. And both of those important pieces to those dual assassin-type compositions that the Jade Dragons like to go for.
Yeah, they are going to let the Morrigan through, but maybe that means the Scarabs are going to try to grab it for themselves, and actually the Jade Dragons not going to let that happen. The Morrigan is going to take a ban here as well. I mean, last time it seemed like, oh, the Hades.
Yeah.
I actually like that. The Hades is something that I think Scary D can be very impactful on in the solo lane. You're going to be getting, usually, you're going to be getting out-pressured. I mean, you're going to out-pressure the Jade Dragons in this case, and you should be able to confirm your blue buff. Yeah, you will be doing the out-pressuring. So I think getting Scary D on something that he's been playing a fair bit and just something you feel confident on can be really impactful in team fights. A smart look, whereas there's a bunch of other, top-tier supports like tanks that are still available, and you don't really have to focus on those too hard. But the Jade Dragons are going to grab the Atlas. Remember, it was banned away last time. Will it be for Scream or will it be for PBM? Heck, it could even be for fineokay.
Yeah, what a weird sentence. Is this Atlas going to be for Scream mid?
Yep.
Or is it going to be for Mike support? There's one clearly more crazy option on the table, though. So do the Jade Dragons just lock in their duo lane, or do they lock in both of their carries? Two totally different worlds we could be looking at. Now, the Dragons have made that work, and you say, Dave, well, then what happens with Pegon? Pegon just plays as some other assassin over in the jungle, is what we've seen in the past, and it's looked really nice. Now, initiation, if that was your concern, you've got two big circles that are sending opponents in different directions here for the Solar Scarabs trail. You got Hades at the Pillar of Agony to pull them in, Batz to send them running. And so it feels like if initiation was a concern, the Scarabs maybe have remedied some of it.
Unfortunate. I wanted to see the Awilix lock there. If we saw the Awilix, that would have cemented for me the Atlas mid, just because Batz, Anhur, and Hades all have the leaps. You got the knock-up. There's plenty of CC there.
They're baiting him in. It could still be Awilix. That's Camazotz solo.
If I'm the Solar Scarabs, I'm banning it, and they did, thank goodness. I was going to say, I'm not even letting the Awilix get through. So this tells me the Solar Scarabs have done their homework. They're well aware that there could be an Atlas mid coming through here for Scream. And at the very least, could be fineokay on that Camazotz once again, but so much flex potential for the Jade Dragons whenever we see them play. You never can really cement anything until you see them spawn in with it. So I imagine, just wanted to play safe for the time being. But some support bans. Hurriwind is going to have to dive deep into the God Pool with Ymir, Khepri, Cabrakan, and Yamoja all being taken away. Notably, usually the Fafnir's the call. We don't have too much SPL data to go off of here for Hurriwind, but I just think it's a pick that he likes to go to, and it helps out the team. Isn't terrible into the Cupid, but if you're just saving that Fields of Love for the transformation, you're not going to have the greatest time. We'll have to see what the Scarabs want to go to, but first, Jade Dragons have their pick.
Ends up being Dodgy Hover, with, again, a couple jungle bans out there. Now, Awilix, yes, you would think definitely Pegon jungle. I'm still leaving that opportunity open. I'm not closing any doors on Pegon jungle. I don't even know if ever. I guess it'll end up being the last. No, but we're still assuming. No, if the last pick is not a support. If the last pick is a. No, that seals it. Vulcan. That figured it out. See, even the Jade Dragons got me all turned around.
Yep.
It is what I'm assuming will be Pegon mid on the Vulcan. Atlas support for PolarBearMike. And then Camazotz, either jungle or solo. Jade Dragons got my brain all scrambled, but we've gotten it figured out here. Meanwhile, on the other side, the Solar Scarabs looking for mid and support in all likelihood. Now, Discordia would be an interesting lock-in, but Sylvanus is an interesting lock-in. 1% ban rate, and it was in game number 1 of this set. But maybe the Scarabs were onto something we're not quite privy to.
Yeah, I mean, the Sylvanus could just be dominating scrims at the moment. It's going to get you some decent lane pressure as well as the pulls coming in, but I don't know. That's going to be the call. We'll have to see if Hurriwind's on point with that engage. And as you said, because the Vulcan gets locked in, that should, in theory, cement in the mid laner. And Camazotz going over to solo. You got to assume Scream's pick is the only one they are waiting on. We saw the dodgy hover. That could still be what the Dragons decide to go to. With Pele, with Najah gone, I have to imagine that's going to be the call. So we'll have to see exactly where the Jade Dragons do decide to go to for their last pick. Because they already have some good team fight with the Atlas, with the Cupid, with the Vulcan, as well as good objective burn and secure. I mean, you could go 10 different ways with this pick. Like, you could go for some extra team fight damage. You could go for some single target. Susano, I think, covers those. But it's actually going to be the Osiris.
The most boring of all the options.
Yeah, that is definitely the most boring. I suppose it also answers or begs the question, Is that Osiris into the Hades for fineokay and
Yeah, right.
Scream takes the Camazotz? I tried to say Scream on the Camazotz once. I'm not going to do it again. I'll say
no, but
probably not.
matchup-wise, do you think a Camazotz or an Osiris may fare better into a Hades than the other?
Honestly, neither one of them out-clear the Hades, and that's probably what you're going for. Sure, you got the anti-heal if you're Osiris, but you're definitely never out-pressuring a Hades. You're going to walk up, try to clear, your own wave gets healed, then you're just sad, and Hades leaves and goes and does other things.
Right.
At least Camazotz has some extra level of safety. I don't prefer one to the other because they're both going to be over there fighting if you're looking for a gank. So as long as you have that 100% anti-heal, I think it goes either way.
All right, now, remember the big story from Game 1 was that Double Hunter, Double Guardian simply didn't have enough time for the Solar Scarabs to get online. By the end of that game, it's basically sealed by the time those Hunters might start doing things in those team fights. Total pivot now from the Solar Scarabs. They've gone towards meta, they've gone towards initiation, typical mage in mid, typical hunter over in the duo lane. Does this composition start building up a bit earlier in your mind, or are there similar woes over the horizon for the Solar Scarabs team?
I definitely think it builds up a bit earlier, especially because of the Hunbat's Hades 1-2 punch. I think those ults combo really well. Either one after the other, trying to burn the beats for the other ultimate, or if you know someone doesn't have beats, you can throw them on top of each other, and then it's a cripple field as well as the Hades ult, so that's interesting. And
yeah, do you get locked in place if there's a Hades ult and Fear No Evil on you?
Yeah, so the idea is like, okay, I'm Ho Yi, right? I don't have beats, but I can just jump out of Hades ult. But if I drop the Hunbat's ult into the Hades ult, then I can't jump out, and I'm getting tick damage by both of them. So
yeah,
you could just reaction jump over it, I suppose, but it could happen.
Yeah, because I'm trying the tug of war
the
that
push and
happens
pull.
just keeps you locked in place. Now that requires some overlaying of ultimates, things like that. That does lay a lot at the feet of Sam for Soccer and Scary D to kind of be those initiators for this team. That's nothing that Sam is not used to, right? Has had to be that for many teams over the years. On the flip side, look towards the Jade Dragons here. Now Vulcan has been a very strong pick for a lot of teams, Trelly. Can it be a good pick for the Jade Dragons? Looking to close out this set 2-0. Jade Dragons, Solar Scarabs, Game 2, kicking off.
It was a fast Game 1 for the Jade Dragons. Only took them about 24 minutes. Maybe this time around, the Solar Scarabs, with their composition, can push that back a little bit and maybe try and get themselves to that later game where they can fight against the Dragons. But Mifflin, it's going to be a tall task to be said here. I mean, Jade Dragons, they have been known to be that W-key style of team, run down as early as they can. But a couple of interesting pickups here, at least by the Solar Scarabs. I think the first one that really catches my eye is the fact that Hurriwind has gone to the Sylvanus. It was banned away by the Scarabs in game number 1 and then picked up here in game 2. Is this Sylvanus a pressure style of pick you would imagine for this lane?
Well, Sylvanus certainly used to be pressure, right? Back in the day when he was meta, those AoE autos were very strong at pushing wave. Whether or not it's going to be able to match the pressure of an Atlas, I am curious to see. I think it has certainly got potential, but it's also a very high execution-based god, and Hurriwind got caught out a few too many times in the previous match, and Sylvanus a little bit more susceptible to hyper-aggression than maybe a Cabrakan was, so we'll see how that one starts to pan going forward. It is certainly a kill lane, though, for the Solar Scarabs. Sylvanus and Anhur, like a stray pull into just the raw damage that an Anhur has in the early, could be hyper-threatening to the Jade Dragons. But when I look at the Dragons draft, I mean, I don't think they're so concerned about pressure, are they? You've got the Camazotz in the Soul lane that should be able to hold its own against Hades for the most part. You're not going to be able to outclear him, as Trelly said, but you're also not really under too much threat, and you can at least start moving in towards those camps a little bit more easily than a Hades can. Needs a lot of stacks before Hades is the god that we've been seeing in the SPL. Generally, it's the Book of Thoth, the Warlock staff, the Bancrofts, and then you're able to get involved. I think the Jade Dragons could just simply reprise the exact same pace as we had seen in Game 1.
PBM.
Okay.
Slam against the wall
Okay.
and rooted after. So there's some decent damage out of her in Yark to try and answer back to the aggression through, but not quite enough to kill Mike just yet. It does end up hitting over towards level 2. Hurriwind should be right behind. And maybe a rotation towards Sam. Scream on the left side of the jungle on an early Scepter rotation. This is something that kind of when this got brought back into the lane, we were wondering how often our junglers going to get involved. Took a couple of weeks to play. We started seeing a few junglers rotate over towards duo. Now it seems to be becoming a little bit more common, Myth.
Yeah, I think it's just worthwhile to get that first scepter. It boosts the DPS of whoever picks it up significantly, especially throughout the early portions. If it goes over to PBM, you're going to have a whole lot more DPS potential. Wave Clear going to get a pretty nice boost. I believe it was actually Scream that decided to pick it up, though. And on a god like Osiris, who is very good at keeping you point blank for the entire time, seems like it's a pretty decent pickup for Scream at that. I agree with the decision-making of Sam4Soccer, though, realizing, yeah, I could rotate over towards the Scepter. He was in position for it. He checks, and he realizes, oh, Scream's here too? I don't want to fight an Osiris early. A Mannequin's Osiris. I'm good on that. So instead, heads back towards mid. I think a great decision. If Sam4Soccer actually dedicates himself to the rotation, it would have forced the Solar Scarabs into a position where you have to fight over the Scepter, and being put into a position where you have to fight an Osiris or have to fight a Cupid in the first 3 or so levels is never exactly where you want to be.
So Sam's answer to this aggression, at least by the Jade Dragons. Scream and Pegon go for a red buff invade, take that one away from oBoronic. Sam rotates over, steals the blue buff away from Fine, and steals the speed buff away. So Scream going to be without that buff for a couple more minutes. We'll instead clear out the red and the green on his side of the map. But it's at least good answer back from Sam, because now he's got his own blue that's been cleared by Scary D, so that's free experience to him. His own speed buff that he's going to get to double up in that regard. I like the response for Sam in this early game.
Yeah, it should match up some of the lead that we've seen from Scream so far. Once you clear out your own camps, that's where you start to see the experience start to develop. Scream doesn't have a whole lot left to farm as of right now, and Sam4Soccer just now starting to work his way through his side of the jungle. So Hunbot's getting closer and closer to 5. Significant for the Solar Scarabs. That Fear No Evil going to be a great engage or disengage tool.
Double pull into a Heart Bomb. A nice and easy combo for PBM and PandaCat in that lane. But actually taking a look at the mid laners and their build specifically. Immediately going into the Pendulum for Pegon, get him his sane potential starter item for late game power. Warlock Sap likely after. But oBoronic immediately went into Book of Thought. Skipped the starter item, went straight into stacking.
Yeah, I had thought maybe we would see people start skipping starter, considering mages in particular have been selling their starter item rather than finishing them up. Spear of Desolation kind of taking over that late game slot. So if you don't feel like you necessarily need the CDR or you need the additional clear from a conduit gem, I could see this being a pretty valuable start for oBoronic as he starts to get a little bit closer to that second, third item.
Continued fight to the left. Hurriwind low. Hurriwind gone. Maybe Jarcorrr to follow after. The Gamma Burst is good, and the double kill even better, as Scream claims not just 1, but 2 kills for First Blood.
And the timing of that from the Jade Dragons is amazing, realizing, yeah, Sam's probably just invading blue again. Let's go ahead and take a fight while we've got the numbers advantage. And they're right. Sam is invading blue and is nearly as well. If Pegon was able to make that rotation, could have turned around that fight. But oBoronic catches the rotation for Pegon, makes sure that he isn't able to get there, and fineokay won't chase it out on his own with Scary D so close by. So good play from the Solar Scarabs to be able to get that blue, but better play from the Jade Dragons, who not only get a double kill on the left-hand side, but secure their speed buff as well.
And put that double kill onto the jungler, who was now running at Sam, low on mana. oBoronic probably doesn't want too much to fight over up against PBM and Scream. So the Scarabs won't even be able to claim their own Scorpion. That one will be taken away by the Jade Dragons. Quick rotation from Scream and PBM to make sure that that one gets done. And now Pegon on his back can finish up that Warlock Staff and pick up this Chalice of Healing. We've been seeing this item picked up a lot more frequently. The extra sustain from these refillable health potions have been picked up quite a bit, especially when I look at a team like the Oni Warriors. At points I look up and they've got 4, if not 5 people with that.
Yeah, the earlier you pick it up, the more value you get from it, saving you a little bit of gold on every back if you are worried about getting some HP potions. And up against a god like you, Huang, I think you'll find some pretty decent value from it. Pretty often, oBoronic will just toss out the Phoenix Fire and say, ha ha ha, you took 200 damage, and that starts to build up over time. Pegon's got 3 ways to answer that 200 damage every single back, so it makes it a little bit more difficult for oBoronic to set up a situation where Sam4Soccer has got an easy gank. So long as Pegon is at full HP, it's pretty difficult for really Sam4Soccer or anybody on the Solar Scarabs to want to fully dedicate to a dive.
Oracle Harpies, not going to be finished just yet. PBM bothering Jarcorrr, doesn't end up having to expend the Impale for the Hunter to secure that one, so vision will be good. But
yikes.
Unfortunately, didn't have vision on Scream, who was around the wall, waiting for the stun. The jump doesn't quite get it far enough. Fear No Evil does help out. Impale pushes him back, but Sam needs a little bit more. Jumps in, finds the slow Sunder from Mike, and a rotation in from PandaCat means that Scream is out. No one will go down in the fight, at least not yet. A good pull from Hurry, but it's not going to net to very much.
Jarcorrr, amazing juke after the leap, starts to walk immediately back towards where Scream was, realizing that Scream's probably predicting a straight-up walk away. Mike, not under too much threat here. The only thing they could do to lock him down is that ultimate from Hurriwind, but has to wait out that dash. So Mike able to take away one of the offerings and make his way out very safely. But that was narrow margins. One more auto attack from Scream would have likely secured that kill, and if it wasn't the auto, it would be mannequin passive immediately afterward. The Jade Dragons, they're keeping up their pressure, and in just getting aggressive on the Jarcorrr, you take away one of the early game win conditions for the Solar Scarabs. Jarcorrr in this Anhur is one of the highest kill pressure gods on the map right now for the Scarabs, and in stripping Desert's Fury, all of a sudden that kill pressure starts to wane a bit.
We do see Hurry try and put some pressure against Pegon, but not much that a zero-power Sylvanus can do early on in the game against Pegon, who's building a lot of extra HP. 2v2 with Sam jumping over the wall. Fear no evil not available, but the bat out of hell is. That'll get fineokay out of danger. Scream does! Man's get a 1-for-1 trade, but now with Hurriwind here, fineokay will quickly beads the knockup and standing inside of 3 health pools to sustain all of it. The Phoenix Fire, not enough damage. fineokay lives through all of it through the blood of not only his enemies, but his allies too.
That is absolutely wild. fineokay also gets a perfect ultimate setup. Scary D goes into Pillars of Agony, and Sanford Stalker's like, I'm going to fight right here where there's AoE damage around me, right? I want to play here. But when fineokay goes up into Bat Out of Hell, is a mechanic that we don't get to see too often, but for everyone you swoop through, you get additional damage, right? So every single one of fineokay's swoops were 2-man. He got additional damage onto both Scary D and Sanford Stalker, turning around that fight very, very well. Love to see it. It's 10% per god. That is significant.
Hitting that 3 times stacks up very quickly, and then once all these people start dying around him, doesn't take much for fineokay to realize, oh, I could just keep standing because all these blood pools are stacking up on top of each other. All 3, I'm pretty sure he could have stood in a perfect Venn diagram of the 3 to keep himself alive during that.
But still, well played to the Solar Scarabs to find the one. Not easy to shut down anybody on that side of the map.
A lot of healing by Scary
Again,
D.
run it back.
There's another Pillars of Agony, but this time no healing for Scary D. It's Scream who's able to get a 4th kill now on the board for himself. Number 5 for the Jade Dragons. All the action's been on this right side of the map, and the right side is where it's been panning out.
And they're going to get the tower as well if the Jade Dragons want it. I mean, maybe even if they don't want it with that Trebuchet already pushed up. Scary D just in a very poor position once more. I mean, that's a simple rotation back through for Scream, and now oBoronic under threat. Pegon, no stranger to finding these solo kills, will spook oBoronic away from that fight.
oBoronic pulled back.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good. He had Celestial Flight. He's going to live, but it definitely did get a little dicey there for a moment. I imagine if Pegon would have fired that a little bit sooner, maybe could have been a kill there, but at least for now, the fight back. I mean, at one point, fineokay was almost a level and a half or so down from Scary D, but with those 2 little skirmishes, those 2 big fights, I should say, that really broke out to the right, fineokay now to pull up a lead for himself. 4,000 gold, 5k XP, and climbing with tier 1 tower and a pyromancer now being taken away for the Jade Dragons. We're starting to get dangerously close to game 1 territory.
Scarabs response, Gold Fury on the other side of the map. You got to be real sure about this call. PandaCat and Scream hot in pursuit.
PandaCat has ultimate. Gold Fury's not dying fast enough. Fields of Love is there. Fear no evil used. Solar Scarabs get the Fury. But can they get out? Scream dunks in, finds 2, takes down 1 right away. And the Dragons miss out. Scream picks up the double. Now oBoronic up into the flight, into the tower. That should be far enough for Scream to not continue his chase. But that was a 2-for-none trade. Gold Fury goes to the Scarabs, but Dragons get 2.
Gold Fury goes to the Scarabs narrowly. PandaCat uses the beads, tries to secure it with that heart bomb, whiffs slightly, connects with actually Sanford Stalker instead. But 2 kills, I think still pretty valuable, especially considering you got to mitigate the actual gold acquired by Gold Fury, considering tier 1 on right went down and potentially tier 1 on left. No dash available to PandaCat, but no mana for Hurriwind and no ultimate either means that PandaCat does not care about that tower damage. You got Gold Fury, you lost tier 1 on right, you lost 80% of your tier 1 in mid and 80% of your tier 1 on left. I don't think the Jade Dragons are too concerned. Maybe the main thing they're upset about is they don't get the Gold Fury, right? It's not so much that you got it, it's that they wanted it.
They definitely tried to grab that Gold Fury away, as you highlighted. PandaCat using his beads through the Fear No Evil to try and steal that out. PBM wants to go again, going for the Sunder, picking up that splashing one for himself. PandaCat 2 levels up over Jarcorrr. And this has been consistent since level 8 for PandaCat. I mean, he was 8 versus Jarcorr's 6, and that has continued to be the trend for the previous, or I should say, the next 4 or 5 levels of the game. PBM picks up Hurriwind, slam, but Scream once again is rotated through.
Good
Impale will slow it down. Flight from oBoronic will get him pretty far. Good turnaround and ult out by Scream to get away. The monkey toss does go the way that Sanford Soccer wants it. Hurriwind still alive to all this. PandaCat has got to dash out, but he's surrounded by 3 and will be blocked off by the pillar. Pegon can't make it out of the ult from Scary D. And the Jade Dragons have now stepped too far forward.
Real narrow margins there. We'll see if fineokay can clean them back up a little bit. oBoronic falls down. Scary D, no threat to the Camazotz as of now. So 3 for 0 turns to 1 for 3 with a rotation from the Soul Laner. The Jade Dragons just a bit over-aggressive, but it is worth noting, PandaCat whiffs the Heart Bomb in the 1v3 in the purple buff. He would have got a kill on any one of the 3 if he connects with any of them, but does not. Instead, another pick for the Solar Scarabs, and ones that they desperately needed to keep that gold lead from ballooning completely out of control. And it's all off the back of Mike getting picked out. Mike may not have paid the price. It's the rest of his team that pays for it. But it was a fight decided by Mike. The Solar Scarabs quick on the response, able to turn it around.
Mike being the good support and holding the way for his teammate.
It's the least he could do. He got his teammate killed.
He's like, man, I know you guys died, so I kind of got to live. So, here's my apology gift, is a nearly full minion wave for PandaCat. But Jade Dragons, even after losing 4 during that team fight, or 3, or however many it was at this point through the 3-for-1 trade that went out, they're still 4,000 gold up. Experience kind of went down a little bit. Maybe another pick on the Scream would be good. But Scream's level 14 on the Osiris and really does not seem to care about the DPS of the Scarabs.
When you're playing into a deficit like this in the Scarabs, using your ultimate like Hurriwind just did, you have to be certain that you're going to get value, because looking at the state of the map, the Jade Dragons can keep up their pressure, they can keep walking you down like this, and they don't need to worry about a Hurriwind ultimate anymore.
Pegon ult just a little short.
That was close.
From connecting to Scary D.
No way it kills, right? Like, no way.
No, I don't think so.
It's level 14.
It's Warlocks and Divine Ruin versus decent bit of HP, some defense by Scary with the Tainted Steel. I don't think that one kills, but it definitely keeps it interesting. Definitely makes you wonder if the Dragons, if that does connect, does Scream blink in to try and get the kill? Maybe.
Maybe. You know what? It's Scream, probably, right?
If he saw it hit and he's within range, he's blinking for that.
100%. But I like the idea from the Jade Dragons there as well, and it's something they've done in the past around the Vulcan. We've seen Mike very often when he plays things like the Artio, just blink stun to set up for Vulcan Ultimate. Just using the Atlas slow to set up is very cool.
2 versus 2. Fear No Evil use, but the beads and an Aegis down. PandaCat doesn't get to live through there. Jump away by Sam. Scream boxing against 2 and winning against 2. Finds 1. The Aegis buys time for Jarcorrr. Scream should, and I say should go down. Who's it going to be? It'll be oBoronic with 1 final auto to lock him out. But now with Mike and Pegon on the way, 2-for-1 trade out at the end for the Solar Scarabs.
Jade Dragons having some fun on the map, man. These fights are narrow odds every single time, just 2v2s. It's not the same lead that we had seen in the previous match where they would have been allowed to go for these wild plays. Instead, the Solar Scarabs have adapted well. It's very reactive play from the Scarabs, but they are reacting well. Every single time the Jade Dragons send a gank over towards the duo lane, the Scarabs send 4, right? If the Dragons have 1, the Scarabs have 2. If the Dragons have 2, the Scarabs have 3. They're always looking for that numbers advantage. And that's something you need to do when you're playing to a composition like this. I think the Solar Scarabs have got pretty strong mid to late game scaling as well. Their team fight, very good. The space control between Hurriwind and Scary D, very, very good. So the idea of the Solar Scarabs as of right now to just keep your head above water and be able to group up as 5 a little bit later on should bode well.
Well, the Scarabs are in a much better position now than they were at this same point in game number 1.
That's not saying a lot.
Well,
it's the truth. You're saying
true.
the truth.
I mean, it's 16 minutes in and only 3K gold. Maybe some of that mitigated. Only Fury does go to the Jade Dragons. Scary D ults, gets the beats away from Pegon. But what will the Solar Scarabs do now? With Scream in the middle of 4, Sunder on to oBoronic. oBoronic does fly it away. But Hurriwind caught inside the Fields of Love will end up going down at the end of the day. He needs a little bit more damage from Scream to get that one. But Sam trades it out for one. fineokay gets Jarcorrr in the backline, and Scream again will box up against Sam. But with oBoronic there, can't do it alone. Needs some help from fineokay, who is more than willing to take a boxing match at any point in this game. Sam for soccer tethered away, smacked down.
Whoa.
But it's the turn and Pegon who take him. And a 4 for 3 plus a Gold Fury for the Jade Dragons.
Yeah, the itemization from Sam for Soccer putting in a lot of work there. The Hydra's Lament passive is what turns that around on a Scream. So a better fight for the Solar Scarabs than you may have expected, and a fight that I'm not certain the Jade Dragons needed to take. They had already gotten the Fury. They had already fully disengaged, and I chuckle because on the disengage, we turn around and it's Scream in the middle of 4 with Tether on all 4, just W-keying his way forward. Does a whole lot of damage, though. Can't slide him even in the slightest because the damage output of this Osiris has been absolutely ridiculous. And now that he's starting to move in towards a little bit more survivability in that next slot, probably going to be the Toxic Blade if we're being honest, but still, you know, a little HP. It could go a long way when you've already got the mitigations hard baked into your kit. The Jade Dragons are having some fun on the map, but it has slowed them down a little bit. Having controlled now the Fury, they can at least group up around this Pyromancer, and the Solar Scarabs won't have the opportunity to make the same play we had seen previously, which is just to trade out neutral objectives. I'd like to see it. Jade Dragons group up, force another fight, but I don't have to ask them that. The Jade Dragons are going to force a fight if they can.
Oh, they had already formulated that like 2 minutes ago before you even thinking that was an idea. Completely off topic. Maybe if I get a moment to talk about it. Hey, PandaCat's stepping up here, man. My Fantasy Hunter's losing out and PBM's going down. That's a very,
sure?
It was an expensive kill to try and go. It took Scary D's ultimate to lock him out. And the double dunk in from the solo in the jungle. oBoronic up in the sky, but it's only for so long as Scream runs down Hurriwind. fineokay rolls over oBoronic. 3-for-1 trade. Took forever for PBM to go down, and because of that, the Dragons rally back around. And now it's a Fire Giant on their mind as all 4 push towards it.
Yeah, here's the thing about Male Renewal. When you think you got a kill on a support, go a little bit further. You got to do 120% instead of just 100. And PBM buys enough time for the rest of his team to rotate through. Scary D could steal it here.
Fire Giant low. He does steal it, so Scary D pulls the fire away from everyone on the Dragons who looked like they were delaying for PBM to grab it. Maybe unfortunate that it's only Jarcorrr who gets the Fire Giant around it, but at least that's 5 Dragons who don't have the buff.
Hey, beggars can't be choosers, J-Mac. This isn't Chipotle, all right? he got it. Jarcorr's got Fire Giant, and I think that's more than the Solar Scarabs can rightfully ask for in a situation like that. A clean steal from Scary D.
He just walked up and did it.
He simply walked up and did it. I mean, but he did it intelligently. He applies Blight to 3, so he gets maximum damage from the Devour Souls. Does secure the Fire Giant. The Jade Dragon's a bit greedy, trying to make sure that Mike does get fire, but I won't hold that against them either. Having your tank with Fire Giant means that you've got a reliable source of tower DPS soak-up potential, right? So you can have the tank walk in, eat up some damage, resustain with the Fire Giant as fineokay 1v4.
Wow. Doing a lot of damage, too. Does back away when all 4 get near the tier 2, but just so much damage from this Camazotz. Already has hit that level 20, by the way. Has a starter item fully upgraded, Tainted Breastplate to his name. And the Jade Dragons start grouping up and pushing towards this left side with this Camazotz in the middle of the jungle playing goaltender for the rest of his team.
Yeah, almost seems like the Jade Dragons actually got the Fire Giant, doesn't it, with how they're positioning. Scary D jumps forward, Scream tries to take the fight. He's the only one, though.
Scream doesn't get over the wall. That's another pick for the Solar Scarabs to slow down the momentum of the Jade Dragons. And so far, the Scarabs have done a pretty good job of plateauing the lead that the Dragons had mounted. Is 4,000 earlier, dropped down to about 3. Now we're sitting around that 5K. Solar Scarabs keeping themselves alive to push towards late game.
And they've still got plenty of towers they can collect gold from. 30 seconds left on Scream's respawn, and fineokay still waiting on that ultimate. I think the Solar Scarabs are probably in a position now where they can group up, get aggressive, try and catch the Jade Dragons off balance. One more pick, all of a sudden you're looking at the Primal Fury afterward. I like this call from the Scarabs. Get aggressive, grab the tier 1. Don't stick around for the tier 2, but you could still potentially group up on gold and catch the Jade Dragons on the rotation in.
4 out of the 5 Scarabs there. Sam the only one not nearby the pit. Hurriwind on the way. Scary D and oBoronic playing zone duty. But Jarcorrr doesn't have an immense amount of damage. Is able to go through thanks to sustain. But Primal Fury only at half. Builds a love use. Scary D goes in aggressively. Vulcan ult hits Hurriwind, does a lot of damage to him. Now Scary D stuck in the middle of 3. Gets a lot of damage right back in. Pegon is gone. PBM is also gone. But watch out for fineokay and Screammmmm. The dynamic duo of the Dragons are here to fight against the world. And so far they're winning against that one. 2 down for Screammmmm and fineokay. oBoronic and Sam on the run. Double for Fino. And maybe a double for Screammmmm if he can chase down Sam, who is running for his life through the jungle to escape.
Gotta think Scream's got this one. The flank from fineokay will catch him if Screammm does it himself. Look, the Solar Scarabs, and namely Scary D, does a ton there. Any other team fight, Hades locking down 4 for the entire duration and getting a kill on his own with the Pillars of Agony would just win you the fight, right? The only issue is Scary D didn't get Screammmmm. And I suppose when you're playing against the Jade Dragons, that is a critical error because the second this Osiris got involved, the entire fight turns on its head. And even though it had started around the Fury and it goes all the way around the map, all things are a circle and we get back to where we started. This time, though, it's the Jade Dragons taking the Fury for themselves.
So tough. I mean, fineokay and Screammmmm weren't even at that fight. That was 5 versus 3. And then it's just down to only fineokay and Screammmmm, who literally just W-key 4 people and win against the 4. This is such a hard position for the Scarabs to be in because they won that fight. That was a great fight for them, but they didn't even deal with the entirety of the Dragons.
Yeah, here's the thing, man. Screammmmm is not playing as a Jade Dragons member right now. How I've seen Screammmmm maneuver the map,
He's a lone assassin.
it is a 4 stack of Jade Dragons, and Screammmmm like ended up, he was solo queuing, and he got in here because he's been playing on his own the entire time. And even in a situation where it looks like, okay, the fight went cleanly to the Solar Scarabs, the Jade Dragons probably won't reinitiate, right? Screammmmm says, they ain't me. Like, you didn't kill me. You're gonna have to kill me if you want a Gold Fury, and walks in on his own with fineokay nearby to turn around that fight. Just absolutely ridiculous, man. And that's what you're allowed to do on picks like Osiris. All those mitigations, even with a highly damaging build, means that it's going to take a concentrated effort to shut down Screammmmm, and the Solar Scarabs had already expended so much.
I mean, Screammmmm is 11-5 right now. Leading the kills, also technically leading the deaths on his team as well, but that's always been the MO of Screammmmm, to make sure you get those kills, but you'll probably die along with it. 5 Scarabs grouped up for fire. 5 Dragons respond in kind. So the fire is pushed away from the Solar Scarabs. I should say the Solar Scarabs are pushed away from the Fire Giant while the Jade Dragons will start up the Pyro. PBM does lose out on his bubble, but immediately after grabbing Pyro, the Jade Dragons have backed themselves away.
The Solar Scarabs have certainly shown that they've got fight back potential, and some significant power spikes have been hit. Erendite finished for Sam for Soccer, Polynomicon for Scary D, so he's got a whole lot of burst potential, will likely win 1v1s up against Pegon if he's able to find him, or even PandaCat if he's able to find him alone. So I think the Solar Scarabs have got potential on defense. It's just about whether or not they can play together and catch some of the singular plays of the Jade Dragons. Screammmmm has shown a propensity multiple times this game to just walk in on his own. If the Solar Scarabs so choose, they could decide to play around that. Jade Dragons, they're going to force their hand. The Solar Scarabs need to respond soon with the Fire Giant already pulled out.
Immediately leashed. oBoronic flying away. Vulcan ult does hit. At the end, the shell was burned through instantly. And now fineokay and Screammmmm up against Scary D. It's the 1v1 in that regard. Screammmmm losing out on that trade. It will go down. And that's massive for the Solar Scarabs, but they still got to deal with fineokay, who's in the backline harassing 2 different players. Finds the kill onto 1. Batz and jumps away. Scary D's got good damage to take him down. And it's a 2-1 for the Solar Scarabs.
I was telling you, man, Scary D has got solo kill potential and does it up against Screammmmm this time around. You don't want to stand in the Pillars of Agony, even if you are Osiris, even if you've already got 11 kills. The Solar Scarabs now on the Fire Giant, burning quickly. Jade Dragons nearby.
Pegon ult almost back up. They can't wait for too much longer for the steal potential. The Solar Scarabs get the Fire Giant. Scary D in the middle of 3. Narrowly avoids the backfire. And Jarcorrr jumped into the Vulcan ult. Luckily, there was no further follow-up, but Solar Scarabs get Fire Giant on 4, only lose Boronic throughout all of that trade.
Man, Scary walked in 1 versus 3 on the Jade Dragon, says, guys, I might die, but we're getting this Fire Giant. Doesn't die, does get the Fire Giant. Now the Solar Scarabs, for the first time this set, could find themselves in the driver's seat. I'm not saying you need to get a Phoenix here, but you probably want to get a Phoenix here, right? This is a Fire Giant that I don't think that you could reliably grab again. So push down that left tier 2, maybe grab an Oni minion wave from the Oni Fury in about a minute when that respawns. But a pick into a Phoenix would go such a long way for the Solar Scarabs. And they've got a composition that is ripe for that line of decision making. Scary D with Polynomicon, sure, has 1v1 potential on map, but also has phenomenal burst potential for these structures. If you can slow play it around the Phoenix, utilizing the healing of Hurriwind, have Scary D poke the bird with those enhanced poly autos, or even have Jarcorrr toss a couple in there, Phoenix could burn pretty quick. And the CC of the Jade Dragons is largely avoidable. As long as you've got that Heavenly available, which is coming up in about 5 seconds for Hurriwind, Fields of Love largely avoidable. You're not too concerned about the grab potential from Mike. Pegon's ultimate, you've got plenty of leaps to deal with that as well. The Solar Scarabs in a pretty decent position.
Well, they do take what was left standing of that tier 2 tower on its final brick, and the Oni Fury, sorry, will be the next one to go down as well. So Solar Scarabs get some golden pocket, get a little bit of potential pressure to push across the map. But still 2 more towers standing and a Trebuchet pushing up the right side of the map that they'll need to deal with. But for the first time since about the 8 or so minute mark, the Solar Scarabs have closed up this gold lead. Now only about 2,000, separating the two of them 30 minutes in almost. Fairly even game for the Scarabs. Probably one of the best positions they could ask for without just immediately being outright ahead at this point.
And the experience gap is negligible. It's 1 level, legitimately. Sure, I mean, the charts might lie and tell you it's like 3,000-4,000, but it's just PBM with a level lead over Hurriwind. Otherwise, everybody else in the lobby has already ticked over to that level 20 point. So the Solar Scarabs, in the best position that they've been in the entire match, have now got to find somewhere to leverage it on map. Tier 2 towers still available for the push, and enhanced minion waves starting to work their way forward. 3 stack on right, 2 stack in mid. Maybe trying to split the attention of the Jade Dragons, but you got to think with the 2 massive AoE ultimates of Sanford Soccer and Scary D, you'd want one of them with your 3-man core, one of them to have that space creation tool, but instead stacked together. Maybe just trying to find a solo pick.
Sam and Scary D will clear out the mid, tier 2. The 3 stack clears out the right. And with only about 45 seconds left on the power play, does not seem that the Scarabs are interested at all in pushing up one of these Phoenixes. They'll back away, strip what's left of the jungle on the right side of the map, and head back to base. But now as we start pushing towards what will be this next Fire Giant, a Pyromancer as a final prize before the buff fades away, do the Solar Scarabs have the tools to now get back into one of these team fights, to now be able to fight on even ground with the Dragons in these jungles?
What's even ground? You're ahead now. It's not even ground. I mean, it's a negligible lead, but it's a lead nonetheless in the best position the Solar Scarabs have been in. Absolutely group up and trying to defend that Fire Giant. And I say defend only because it's the Jade Dragons and they're going to W key it regardless. These guys play with confidence regardless of map state. So I do imagine we'll see the Jade Dragons be the aggressor here around Fire. Solar Scarabs, it's all about Scary D, legitimately. He's been the one, the difference maker in the last couple of these team fights, and now with a Blazing Blink, your full build, a little bit of defense, the Mantle of Discord, have Scary D jump into the middle of this fight, channel the Pillars of Agony. If the Jade Dragons continue to do what they have been, which is run at Scary D when that's happening, Mantle of Discord stun will find some value. All that lifesteal should find some value as well. But there are answers on the side of the Jade Dragons. I'm keeping my eyes on that Onk from PBM. Could slow down some of the sustain from Scary D. I'm keeping my eyes on Scream. He's a little bit tankier than he once was, now with that Spirit Robe finished up and the Mannequins upgraded, so he's a massive threat to the back line of the Solar Scarabs. I think the Dragons should likely slow play some of these fights. If you can survive Pillars of Agony, if you can make it through Fear No Evil, Hurriwind, Oboronic, and Jarcorrr, I'm not sure if they can generate the threat on their own. They're really reliant on those 2 tools. So the Jade Dragons just need to weather that storm, which is a crazy sentence to say. I don't often say that about the Jade Dragons. It's usually the inverse.
Scary D poked out a little bit. by Pegon and fineokay. Now the Dragons rotate over towards the pit. Will at least get vision control inside immediately. No sentry wards, although it looks like one final sentry ward at least by Hurriwind and the team in order to clear that one out and put vision back to the Dragons, or to the Scarabs. The Jade Dragons are just biding time. Trebuchet pushing up left means that tier 2 and potentially Phoenix under some threat, under a little bit of fire. fineokay eats some strong poke from Scary D and Sam.
Lost
There's
the
that
beads.
1v1 potential you're talking about with Scary D up against fineokay.
Yeah, fineokay, no beads now, so needs to play a little bit safer in that back line. Still has Bat out of hell, so probably won't need to play too cautiously once the fight starts back up, but positioning now a much more important deal for him. Can't get poked out, can't be picked out like we had seen in that small skirmish previously. Able to resustain with the Vampiric Bats in the jungle, but I'm keeping my eyes on Scary D. Auto plus Fear plus Auto doing upwards of 20% of just about anybody's HP bar, and that's without using any of his damaging abilities. Massive, massive threat. But it's the Jade Dragons still finding the defensive positioning in the Fire Giant pit itself. Wards, a smorgasbord on the right-hand side. Some belonging to the Scarabs, some to the Dragons. Neither one really has an advantage in that information battle. Defensive wards a little bit better for the Jade Dragons, though. Their side of the map seems to be controlled pretty well.
Pegon doesn't find the meatball, so no damage over that way. Hurriwind will sustain himself up. Solo laners still having their solo lane battle, but this time around the mid-Harpy camp, in that entrance point. Scary D and Sam sitting inside the mid has separated their team out there. Left side, Trebuchet is starting to push into the Phoenix, and that puts it on a time bomb, or a ticking timer more than anything, to where there might need to be an answer from the Solar Scarabs. That bird is already at half HP from the damage that Trebuchet. Fire Giant started by the Solar Scarabs and immediately pushed away now. Jade Dragons are really playing this patiently over here on this right side of the map.
They might be trying to play off of that Trebuchet. Not sure how much more HP it's got to play with, but is still generating a bit of threat. Solar Scarabs pinging out. They realize that might be a point of concern for them moving forward. The Jade Dragons, they don't really have the onus to start it up now. All they need to do is wait for that Phoenix to eventually fall. Trebuchet has been handled by the PvE.
Why?
But two members chasing Fine?
Why? Why are two on fineokay? And
He's
also,
winning?
why are the two not
Surely
killing
not.
him just yet? One more swipe and maybe an auto
Scary's
after.
got jump.
fineokay needs a little bit more. Blinks past one, jumps over the other one. The blink doesn't connect with the burn. fineokay has bought so much time, but nothing happened on the... What happened on the right side for the fact that 2v1ing over on the other end, and fineokay is the only one to go down in this fight.
I wonder if the Jade Dragons just pulled Fire Giant, tried to force in the Scarabs, but this late in the game, they can't just do it in the face of even just 3 members of the Solar Scarabs. fineokay passed towards the left, so there's no way for the Jade Dragons to rotate in and turn that one around. It was a greedy play from Mr. Fonzo. If fineokay just plays to live, the Jade Dragons have a massive numbers advantage, but instead tries to go for the hero play and win it out on his own. Nearly does, to be fair, but at the end, is just him traded out for none. And the Solar Scarabs, now a Fire Giant enhanced on all 5, can start to break the base with 20 seconds on the respawn still.
Sam
Scream?
is fine.
You
It's
sure?
Scream who's the one maybe in danger. Vulcan doesn't find anybody. Gets the Aegis out of Jarcorrr at the very least, but Solar Scarabs now with a 5v3 advantage for only a couple more seconds. fineokay about to respawn. Pegon's ult down. Panda and Mike also with no ult. Should be a decent mid-Phoenix, but look at the poke that Hurriwind has been taking, even on a Sylvanus. Not an immense amount of sustain just yet. Needs the help of that enhanced Fire Giant, but the Dragons are doing a good job of keeping the Scarabs out.
Yeah, do that good job for another entire half minute. 30 seconds left for Scream in the grayscale. Solar Scarabs resustaining not only from Sylvanus, but Fire Giant as well. Ultimates are back up. Scary D and Sam for Soccer, access to theirs. Sam has the blink too. Split the map, find some pressure. Scary D takes some damage, but not enough that he can't just resustain it on a camp in the jungle.
Hurriwind, half. Pegon ultimate does hit.
Yikes!
Hurriwind is gone with the combo. Between Pegon and fineokay,
1v1.
PandaCat is winning out but loses the heart bomb. Not enough damage, but Pegon's got it. And PBM there to make sure that Sam goes down. The pickup and pull him back into yet another backfire. And the Jade Dragons have repelled the Scarabs at the Phoenixes.
Pegon said, I'll do it myself. Tosses out the ultimate and turns it around. fineokay goes back to the scene of the previous crime. He had lost a 2v1 here. This time, odds are different. Still a 2v1, but Seems like Jarcorrr not too interested in continuing the fight. Jade Dragons now with plenty of time to play with. All fineokay needs to do is prevent these backs, keep them on the back foot, and just buy some time for this.
Or just go in and start the fight himself. Dragons is good. oBoronic at least gets one, but being ran at by fineokay. Pegon with some assists. The Vampire Bat's not enough damage. fineokay will tank up the tower to keep the chase on.
Bye.
Mid laner goes down. Alternate timeline keeps him alive for only a moment before Pegon goes on to a killing spree, and the Dragons not just have repelled the Scarabs, have wiped the Scarabs off the map and are now the ones pushing up to tier 2.
Yeah, it just seemed like the Scarabs kind of missed the thread on that Phoenix siege, right? The Phoenixes didn't take damage, but the Scarabs were 3-2 split. Not a standard 3-2 split, like 3 in mid, 2 on right. It was 3 in mid and 2 like at the fountain, I suppose, trying to shut down PandaCat, which they do, but at significant cost. If Pegon doesn't land that ultimate on a Hurriwind, maybe the Solar Scarabs just went out cleanly on that fight, but Pegon does, and the Jade Dragons, the ones that turn it around immediately afterward. No Phoenix in response, though, so we find ourselves in a very neutral state. Essentially just washing the last 5 or 6 minutes of the game off the board. We're going back to a Fire Giant dance between these two teams. But the Jade Dragons, advantage in that they've got time to head back to base, pick up some wards, regroup, start working their way towards the Fire Giant pit, while oBoronic is still on the respawn.
At this point, I just want the triple-double. He's so close to it. 12, 8, and 8.
Two more deaths? No, no way.
That's a lot to ask for this late in the game. But at this point, he's gotten so close. Don't think it's going to happen unless a team fight goes wildly
It'd have to go like
against
super
them.
even.
Yeah, and it has to do it twice.
Yeah.
It has to be 2 times that it happens. Maybe the second time to at least go for the wipe back out. Solar Scarabs get the Pyro. Jade Dragons group up. Fire Giant buff still there for another 15 seconds. And then another minute after that before it crashes back in. So Solar Scarabs will take their time to regroup. That gives oBoronic a little bit more time on that alternate timeline to regenerate, but that's still 4 minutes on that cooldown before it comes back up.
Yeah, I don't think we're relying on alternate timeline anymore. Actually, can I get a look at gold in pocket, Doug? Generally, we'll see these starter items get sold for Spear of Desolation, 800 gold in pocket. It's going to be a little while until oBoronic finds himself in the position to do that. So maybe that alternate timeline could come into play a little bit later on. Fire Giant will be respawning very shortly, just under a minute. Jade Dragons had left base, dropped their wards, head back to base, bought more wards. Solar Scarabs in a similar position. But take a peek at the pockets of the Scarabs. Elixir of Power just now popped for Sam for Soccer. Scary D holding on to his as well. Is a massive threat still. This Hades could be the difference maker. Finally decides to use it. Those Polynomicon auto is going to be ridiculous, and it's Sam for Soccer going to take a red buff for himself. He wants to trade out quickly. He's got the build for it. Does a whole lot of damage, and now even more so with the red. But you got to think maybe that would have been a little bit more valuable on oBoronic so that he could poke from a range. Sam for Soccer a bit committal on his damage, whereas Huang can just toss out those Phoenix Fires whenever he wants. We'll see how this one pans out. Solar Scarabs defensive positioning. Jade Dragons going to have to fight their way in.
fineokay jumps away from that Phoenix Fire thrown out by oBoronic. And now, 5v5 grouping. Sam trying to cut off the path. PBM will dash away with the rest of his team. As the Solar Scarabs not willing to commit to a pull on the fire, not willing to try and bait the Dragons out of it. But every second that kind of ticks by, every second that gets waited on from the Jade Dragons, another second pulled away from those elixirs. Jarcorrr popped his much earlier on. Now Scary D and Sam will pop theirs in this fight. Not saying that that's necessarily going to come into a factor right away, but as long as the Jade Dragons keep biding their time here, they're slowly waiting out the power plays of the Scarabs.
There is no way the Jade Dragons were like, yeah, we got to get rid of these elixirs. All right? We got to wait those out because the Dragons have popped some themselves. Elixir defense now to Scream. 50 prots both ways, plus mitigations from Tether and a slightly tankier build towards the tail end means that Scream is going to be a little bit more difficult to shut down in some of these fights. Still like his odds in a couple of these 1v1s. Not the guy he's looking at now, though. Scary D could really turn around this game with a massive play. Both teams showing a bit of caution here. Scream, he wants the 1v1 against Sam. Fear no evil used early.
Beads down by Scream, rooted in place, locked down by Scary D, who will get the kill, but the Vulcan ult will erase Scary D off the map. And now it's Hurriwind on the run. Pegon backfires to get into position, but loses a lot of his health. Pegon finds the double kill with the meatball. And now it's Sam and Jarcorrr inside the jungle waiting to the left-hand side. 3 versus 4 as the Dragons push up.
Man, Scream is such an impact player. He doesn't win the 1v1, but he drags the Solar Scarabs into such an awful position. Scary D forced to use his ultimate to secure the kill. Sanford forced to use his ultimate to create that opportunity as well. Scream, it trades his life for the Solar Scarabs team fight. He took it all away. And now the Jade Dragons with Enhanced Fire on 4 might just be able to find Sam as well.
Sam on the run. Maybe collapsed on by fineokay and PBM while the carries run down mid because oBoronic is
right?
low. Flight to go the opposite way, but a backfire from Pegon will put oBoronic in the dirt. 70-second respawn timer before this Huang is back on the map. 10 seconds for Scream. 1 death away from the triple-double on the jungler. Let him come back in. Let Scream die to the fountain just to get it at this point. I think it might be the only way. As the Jade Dragons push up the mid Phoenix, they make their way towards left. Should be an easy grab for them there as well.
Left Phoenix burning quickly. Sanford can't get involved. Takes some damage from the Screech. So no Blink available to him to start that fight up. Fear No Evil is up. Blink is up as well now. But it just keeps getting clipped by these damages.
Scary D. Bead's gone. Left Phoenix still standing though. Jade Dragons non-committal towards this left burn, not willing to throw their lives away. This late in the game, respawns getting to 70+ seconds now for these players.
Here comes Scream.
And Scream on the way up the mid lane. With that Phoenix gone, could go for an easy pincer towards the left side. Keep your eyes on Sam. Blink is up, Fear No Evil alive as well.
They're playing around the Blink, the Jade Dragons, so well. Sanford has tried multiple times to get in a position to throw out a massive ultimate, and he gets clipped by a Screech from fineokay, the Gamma Ray from PBM, a stray backfire here or there. It's just been very difficult for Sanford to get into position to make that play. And so, the Jade Dragons take the left side Phoenix with little fanfare, and the Primal Fury as well. Gotta sing the praises of Pegon now that we've got the opportunity. Not only does he perfectly time his ultimate to shut down Scary D on the Pillars of Agony, but throws the ultimate out to zone the Huang in a backfire range as well. Massive.
Scream. Bead's gone. Sanford wants to get that kill, but misses the monkey toss. Needs one more hit, but can't do it. Maybe Scary D can. Not going to be able to. Scream
good slows.
Walks out, and a sprint root popped to keep PBM from being able to pick up that kill. Now the Solar Scarabs on retreat after a valiant attempt by Sanford.
If that Sacred Monkey, the second one, had connected, that's the end of Scream's life perfectly, but Scream jukes it well, then avoids the fear from Scary D too, securing his life and even stripping away some resources from the Scarabs who are forced to use the Entangling Wings just to escape. The Jade Dragons now can continue their onslaught. 45 or 44.5 minutes in, I'd almost forgotten the towers still stand, but Tier 2 on right is certainly still there. Not certain for how much longer. Enhanced Fire Giant should make short work of it. And only 1 Phoenix left. Solar Scarabs got to draw their line here.
Well, good news for oBoronic. Alternate timelines back up. Second chance maybe on the Fine. But he's able to jump away. Popped his beads right away. Gets back to the safety of his team. 45 seconds on Fire Giant. Dueling Dragons hits 2. fineokay up in the sky, but Scary D locked inside. And the Vulcan ultimate just off the mark. The Gamma Ray burst goes through. Fear No Evil to the back line by Sam. Double knockout by Hurry. fineokay's down. PBM is down. And the Solar Scarabs have now pushed the Dragons back.
The Jade Dragons remained grouped for so long, it was only a matter of time until Sanford would line that one up. 3 members of the Jade Dragons still alive, and they'd like to set up an ambush. Pegon blows up their spot with an attempted meatball. Does not connect and should spell the end of this gank attempt. But it seems like Pegon not willing to let this one go. If the Solar Scarabs want to continue moving up, it's going to cost them their HP with how the mid laner of the Jade Dragons has been positioned. But the Solar Scarabs deserve every bit of praise, man. That was a hard-fought battle on that right-hand side, avoiding Pegon's ultimate, Sanford with the 4-man ultimate, 2-man pull from oBoronic on that Dueling Dragons, slowly pulling away at all the beads on the side of the Jade Dragons. And now the Scarabs, as their reward, get to twiddle their thumbs in the jungle and wait for the Fire Giant to respond.
Be about another 30 or so seconds till that one's back in, and Well, by that point, fineokay and PBM will be back on the map. Taking a look at the Relic Roundup, though. It's about another minute plus until the beads are back up for Pegon and PandaCat. Used both of those during that last Fear No Evil. Still 45 seconds until fineokay's beads are back. Opposite side, it's really only Scarady's beads and then Aegis by Jarcorrr that are waiting to come back up. But the Scarabs are the one who have established their presence immediately to the right side. Jade Dragons, either they don't know or
Backdoor?
they don't care that this is happening. Left
Backdoor?
Phoenix gone, mid Phoenix weakened,
No wards.
and no vision on this side. The Jade Dragons
This is scummy.
might just run this one through. They need to get over the wall. The Scarabs have got to realize that with Fire Giant up and the
Scary's
Dragons aren't
backing.
here, fineokay is going to loop back around, blink over the wall. Scream opens the door for the team, and Scary
It's
D is
happening.
stopped in its place. It is a base race. The Jade Dragons will sneak in a backdoor. Wait, Scream's going for the triple-double. He's got to
Let him
get
have
it
it.
himself.
Sam's
Triple-double
there.
for
Wait.
Scream, but there's not enough damage right back until just at the end. The Jade Dragons keep it interesting. But it's a 2-0 at the end of the day, a triple-double for Scream and a win for the Dragons.
I wonder what stops Scary D's back there. It is
think
almost
he
like
just did.
I know he did, but like what's going through his mind there? He's like, all right, maybe I don't go back to base because no presence around the Fire Giant on respawn. You gotta know there's some shenanigans. Either you're getting Mouse Esports and they're coming around behind you, or they're going for the Titan. And this time it's the Titan. Mike looks a bit drained.
Well,
Can you blame him? That was, what, a 50-minute banger
He's
for the
laughing.
Jade Dragons against the Solar Scarabs? That is absolutely wild. But at the end of the day, J-Mac, you got your wish, man.
got it.
Triple-double.
It's been like, what, like 2 or 3 years? I think if Gore were here, he would have the exact number. He has like the date, the set, the game,
He does.
the
He's
player,
got
and
it
everything.
all.
I think, in fact, it was Sam for Soccer that got it. So now against Sam, the most recent competitive triple-double out there. I got my wish. I'm happy, but man, my heart was racing still on that Titan push because it was very close to going completely south for the Dragons trying to go for a greedy play like that. They do manage to get it. They get themselves the 2-0 victory. Jade Dragon fans, gonna be happy getting the 2-0, even if it's a little bit messy at the end. That's it from If and I on the cast. We'll throw it back over to the desk to close up the set.
Man, we had 5 games of Smite today, and a couple of them were just ridiculous. This one, absolutely one of the ridiculous ones. The Jade Dragons off to a great start. The Solar Scarabs, though, they fight back in. And then the triple-double confirmed by Scream, the backdoor by the Jade Dragons, and they ultimately will snag the Jade Dragons a 2-0 win here over the Solar Scarabs. Not without some pushback, though, and I think that's the important takeaway here. Where Trelly, I mean, if you're Scarabs fans, you of course want to win in every given set, but you're still in that point where right now what you want is competitive games, right? Because what might end up happening is like these big upsets at Worlds and qualifiers, things like that. Scarabs absolutely a team capable of doing that. So you're a bit disappointed, I think, that you don't come away with the win here in Game 2.
Right.
But feeling like you were able to remain competitive, very important.
I mean, for these post-game analysis, we have to, change up as the game goes. I'm like, okay, so, all right. Now, at one point, I was focusing on, okay, so I had to talk about how the Scarabs won this one. Then it gets a stop. I'm like, okay, now I'm back to the Jade Dragons. Then the Scarabs stop again, and I'm like, well, now I know what happens for both of these teams when we get to talk about it. But at that point, the backdoor was the last thing I expected. And honestly, I like the tech where you blink in, open the door for the rest of the team, then PBM dash them through.
Right.
That was a great play, and it worked out for him. And I do respect Scream for dying to the fountain to make sure the triple-double came through, but also, once Sam backed and I saw the Fear No Evil, that almost was a bit of a throw.
I was very nervous.
It was a barn burner, though, no doubt.
I suppose that keeps you out of vision a little bit longer if you're
Instead of walking through the
Phoenix,
Yeah.
you blink over the wall and let your teammates in. I
Mhm.
mean, every second matters in a point like that. The Jade Dragons, they get themselves a 2-0 win. Game 1, very quick. Game 2, this one goes like 45 or so minutes, complete with everything and a backdoor to seal the deal. Pegon and J-Max standing by for the post-game interview.
Yeah, thank you so much. Mid laner for the Jade Dragons. First off, congrats on getting your win over here at Pegon. Finding that win over the Scarabs. Very important for your team to be able to get those ones out there. Talk to me what's going through the mind of your teams, the comms at the end where you guys are just, running through. You said, okay, was it just the plan? We're just going to backdoor and hope that they don't show up?
So we made the backdoor call, and then Scream gets to the fountain. He says, guys, don't end. I have to die to fountain. He drags her Titan to the fountain. I stop hitting it because he says, don't end. And then I get Blink on Batz ulted for the triple-double.
No, did he say it was for that, though?
Yeah, okay, so yeah, almost losing out there. It got my heart racing because I'm like, cool, he got the triple-double, but now it might just be a potential game over for game 3. But kind of walk me through that game because you guys were starting off very strong early on, about 5,000-6,000 gold up, and then it starts kind of getting a little bit washy there. I mean, tell me what was going through the minds of you guys at that time.
I think we took a lot of sloppy fights in the mid game. I think we all died at their purple buff and got ejected off that. We were just really sloppy throughout the mid game, and then late game, around FG fights, it was kind of tough. We didn't really know what we wanted to do, so we got to clean up for next set.
Yeah, but you guys able to get this one out here. Game number 1, a very kind of commanding matchup there. I mean, only 24.5 minutes to play. But when you guys face off against some of the teams at the lower end, when you get to these bottom 2, bottom 3 teams, I mean, do these kind of become those must-wins? Does it kind of change up the dynamic for you guys a little bit going into these matches?
I think pretty much every set is a must-win, but we try to treat everything like serious, take every game serious, yeah.
Making sure you can find everyone out there. Well, Pegon, congratulations on getting your win up here up against the Solar Scarabs. I'll let you get back with the team. Congrats on your 2-0 one more time. We'll throw it back over to the desk.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that the Scream dying to the fountain wasn't, like, unknown to the rest of the team.
I'm pretty.
So, no, Pegon did confirm that everyone knew that the triple-double was on the line. The way it was worded initially, it was like, he just told us he was going to die to the fountain. I was like, what in the world? Like, if the rest of the team didn't know that it was for a triple-double, it would have been a bit surprising. Obviously, a little nervous there towards the end that the fountain death plus fear no evil and all that could have.
Because he was tanking. He
right.
brought the fountain. He brought the Titan to their fountain
Right.
instead of, and they're all like, "Oh, we can't hit it. It's walking away from us." If Mike was tanking, Scream dying does nothing to Titan DPS, but unfortunately, he pulled the Titan right to Sam, who was waiting at the fountain. It was just a.
It's a perfect scenario though, where the Jade Dragons are able to get their win anyway.
Yeah.
And also Scream can confirm his triple-double because team morale-wise, felt like Scream really needed that extra death. You know what I mean?
Oh,
That
yeah.
extra death for the triple-double really, really important to this Jade Dragons team, who truly continue to play very, very good SMITE. I couldn't tell you what to make of the top 4 or 5 teams in the league right now. Any given week, the teams are taking games off one another. And unfortunately, and this is kind of to J-Mac's question, with the bottom couple of teams, the Jade Dragons have not made many mistakes with them this year, and this set certainly no difference. Early on, it was Scream and fineokay over and over and over and over and over again. So definitely got sloppy. I figured this game might end in the next 10 or so minutes at the time of these replays because the Osiris and the Camazotz were simply too strong.
I heard J-Max say Venn diagram. There was 5 of those pools there for fineokay. I mean, he was constantly full
goodness.
HP in that situation. And honestly, I mean, we were looking at the damage numbers throughout. This was a big play for Pegon here, but Jarcorrr and PandaCat, weren't really able to get too active. Like, they were able to get their ultimates off, but that was pretty much it. The auto attacks certainly weren't flowing that hard. You'll see by the end of the game, I mean, like, it was like 15K for both of them. I think PBM even had more than Panda at one point, just because it was very difficult for these hunters to get active, where there was so much CC happening. These big one-shot abilities. Pegon's ults were consistently chunking out like half of the enemy team. And so it was just a well-fought game. I mean, when it goes that late, you're going to have some missteps, but it was fun to watch.
It was a lot of fun to watch. Got to be some good takeaways, though. I mean, for the Solar Scarabs, right? You get O2'd. Clearly, that's not what you were hoping going into this set, but I think I even saw moments there where like a Fire Giant gets confirmed, the Solar Scarab starting to push a little bit on some sieges, Hurriwind clapping in the player cams, and so you can tell that this team's still very motivated and trying to work out some of those issues going into the final weeks of phase number 3 here in Season 9. And so I think, in reality, the Solar Scarabs, they'll be okay in the coming weeks, and we'll see kind of where they lie around the end of phase 3, whether they go to playoffs, whether they're forced into the group stages. But I still see motivation here with this Solar Scarabs team. Unfortunately, today just outclassed by the Jade Dragons, who are playing a really, really, really good brand of SMITE. Now, if you're a Jade Dragons fan and a fan of good SMITE, I have good news for you. The Dragons back in action later on this weekend. And I'll do you one better. They're back in action tomorrow morning against the Camelot Kings. What a way to start off our Saturday. And then Oni Warriors and Titans after that. That's a feud that's been going for a couple of years now. Those two teams always find a way to match up against one another. And then Leviathan's Valkyries. That's right. Remember, with the bye week, we had to reshuffle around some of our scheduling for the end of the year. That means we're going to have more triple header days of SMITE over the next few weeks. So tomorrow, 3 sets of SMITE Pro League action. Sunday, 3 sets of SMITE Pro League action. And there will be more of that in coming weeks as well. Olympus Bolts, they were able to beat the Oni Warriors today, and they'll have a chance at a 2-0 weekend, a desperately needed 2-0 weekend for the Bolts, potentially up against the Solar Scarabs. And Trelly, I think that matchup Sunday morning, Bolts versus Scarabs, standings-wise, gets us close to kind of sealing the deal on a few standings changes that could happen, right? The Bolts at 3, the Solar Scarabs down at 1. If the Bolts are able to beat the Scarabs, that improve them to 4 and 5 and drop the Scarabs to 1 and 8. We're starting to get into miracle territory for the Solar Scarabs to somehow jump out of those bottom 2 teams and avoid going right to the group stages.
Yeah, and if they play like they did just today, I would say both of these teams, it'll be in for quite the game. But, you know, the Solar Scarabs, I'm going to say I was very impressed with the mental tenacity throughout this whole set, and this has been such a short time with all of these players together, like Hurriwind and Jarcorrr, I'm going to assume is just like 2 new players at this point because, you know, Hurriwind playing support and then Jarcorrr switching roles after just playing support and just that was coming from solo. So I'm very impressed with how far they've been able to come thus far with so little practice. So if they play up to the point that we know they're able to, they should put on quite the show for us. And as you said, standings ever so important right now, especially between those bottom 3. So the Bolts and the Scarabs both need to show up for sure on that day.
Well, because in reality, I mean, I hate doing all the calculations and the math live, but after this weekend, the Scarabs only have 5 remaining sets of SPL this phase, and they will be if the Scarabs end up losing on Sunday, they'll be 3 or 4 sets separated from getting out of that bottom 2. So the math starts to not quite work in the Scarabs' favor. So turnaround necessary for the Solar Scarabs. And a matchup for the top of the standings. Everyone chasing the Leviathans right now, but the Jade Dragons and the Camelot Kings, they'll battle it out tomorrow morning. It was a great day of SMITE today. We've got a triple header of SPL action for you tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern time right here on twitch.tv/SMITE game. My name's Dolson. That's been Trelly. On behalf of us, all the other casters, everyone back in production, thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.